Hello, everyone. Welcome. Um, Landon, I'm sorry I saw you were here earlier, or maybe I don't know when you. Number one, thank you for being here. Sorry, I like kept not showing up. Um, I'm trying to get better at that though. So, but welcome. I was out of town for a little while up at my cabin, doing some chainsawing and whatnot. So yeah, I kind of want to just get back into stuff and talk about today, like, well, I just want to talk about like all of those documents that just have been released. Like, there's now been like three sets of them. And the most recent one was the ISP, the Idaho State Police documents, and I've reviewed a bunch of those, but I reviewed the ones at the end because I figured everyone else was doing it from the beginning. So I want to talk about that, and then also want to talk about and discuss a little bit about the like new reports that are coming out from the prison that Bryan Kohberger is in, and just kind of go over just because I have experience like working in the prison system and as a like prison psychologist, and I know a little bit about what is going on in some of these reports that I can explain a little bit further and talk about. Just in case people might be interested in that, I thought it would be good to go over and talk about. And then also the like there's so much stuff coming out right now from the Idaho 4 case. It's just overwhelming. But then there's like a lot of other stuff going on in general that I want to talk about too, but trying to like space it out between both. So, but if you I met you too, Landon, and thanks for returning again. I know it definitely was noticeable that I was gone for a little while. To me, I felt like it was noticeable that I was gone. So I'm glad. And I've been trying to go live for like the last like 2 days, and I just keep like doing like more research on something else or like changing stuff. So I'm trying to be better about that. But yeah, and then I just saw that last night the body camera videos from the first day. Oh, Lila wants to get down. Okay, hope you like so you come back, baby. Um and yeah, so I want to talk about that too. I watched it and like maybe review it. I'm thinking about maybe doing that in a separate video just because this might be kind of long and I do want to like go into details. I did There were some things that like stuck out to me from the video that I wanted to discuss, but I think I'll put that at the end of the list if that's okay with everyone. For tonight, maybe get into it, but maybe just do it as a completely separate live tomorrow or something. So, yeah, I think like usual, I'm going to start off and I've been like trying to go back and do timestamps for these videos after I get done doing them, so people when they come on, um, oh, I'm sorry, Landon, to hear about that. Um, no problem. Yeah, I'll be here um tonight, or if not tonight, I'll be here tomorrow too. But sorry to hear about your cousin's husband. RIP. Um, so yeah, but I have been starting off with doing some like it's like I guess ritual spell things. I'm playing a little tarot card because it's just making me feel like more comfortable doing the live and it's kind of my vibe. So I'm gonna start with that again and then we'll jump in. And if you want to skip all of this, I will put the timestamps below and I'll pin like maybe a comment or something. And or just like add them as chapters. I'm still kind of trying to figure all that out. So you can skip ahead to the different sections and miss like the whole ritual thing. But something else too that I was gonna say, but now I can't remember. Yeah. So thanks for oh yeah. Well, I'll introduce all that later. Okay, so yeah, let's just start off with right off the bat. I will do a little protection spray, and I usually just do this to like make myself feel like more protected, just because some of these like documents and like even topics and like characters that we end up touching on throughout the different videos that we do here on ACAB True Crime is they can be kind of bad. So I just feel like, or dark. and deep and depressing. So I figured just try to light the energy a little bit and protect us all while this goes on. So I'm gonna do a little ring the bowl. The what is it called? The meditation ball. And that is for the solar chakra. And then I have a little um just saying, right? Okay. This space is protected, truth will rise, insight will be clear, and what is hidden will come to light. I speak with clarity and compassion, so mote it be. And then I also kind of like collected a little crystal garden behind me up here. You might not be able to see it, but it's here. And then I have a purple candle because I think they said, I can't remember, I think that represents power. And then they told me that sandalwood incense would be good for this today, so I went with that. And then I also have been doing a little pull of the tarot cards um to start off the whatchamacallit, the live. Oops. And I'm trying to like do a different setup. So I have like two screens now, and then I have like my own little like um mouse and keypad. Not that that matters, but I think that it might end up like making things like look not as bad. Let me know if you notice that. Okay, cool. So this is the King of Cups, which represents usually a someone who comes in with like a lot of compassion, but is also doesn't like talk about emotions a lot, but is like emotionally stable. But so maybe a little bit like harder around the edges, but definitely still like loving. Like I think of like an older grandpa guy who, like loves everyone so much, but he's kind of like, you know, grumpy, but he'd like give anyone anything for whatever. So that's cool. I'll read the little description. This is actually my first tarot deck I ever bought. Well, actually, it is the first like deck that I ever got, but what happened, I like flew to San Diego and to like hang out with my friend, and my bag got lost, which is kind of my fault because I also like missed the plane in Vegas when I was like at the bar at the actually that reminds me of like I was talking to someone else about missing planes last week, and I was like, oh my God, I've like missed way too many planes, and a bunch of them have like at least three of them now that I can remember have been after I was already checked in. But like yeah, so that was one time, but I can't complain. But it sucks. Like obviously someone came in and jacked my bag from the carousel because I didn't come in until like another. I ended up renting a car and just driving to San Diego because like I had to be somewhere. Anyways, long story, but that shit got jacked. So then I re went and rebought this deck, but this is still the original book. So 'cause apparently I didn't take the book with me. But the King of Cups here. Here we go. He rules the currents of the soul. He is the keeper of the waters. He has an unrivaled imagination, is the source of creativeness, and charms the heart with his understanding and intuition. A highly intuitive man who brims with creative juices and captures the imagination. He is charming, entertaining, and evocative. His gut feelings often land him in the right place at the right time. He relies heavily on his mind's eye to plan ahead. Um, And it says, in situation, the card appeals to unconventional approaches when dealing with people and tasks. So perfect. That's hopefully the vibe I'm coming in here with. And then the bottom of the deck energy is the Knight of Wands, which is like, go get 'em, Tiger energy. Let's see. He embodies refined energy. He rides his dragon with confidence and daring. So if you can see, it's kind of pretty. And this is the King of the Cups card. I should have showed you guys that before. It says embodies a charming, extroverted, and knowledgeable young person. Hopefully that's me too. Young person noted. He or she will burn with a fiery confidence and can be alluring, enjoyable, and attractive on many different levels. This person's drive fuels his or her ambitions, plans for success in the future. Projects seem to spring to life around people, around this person. Okay, I love that energy for us. So thank you, universe, and thank you all for being here. I am again ACAB True Crime, and this is my YouTube channel, and I am a former forensic psychologist who worked in a lot of correctional and prison settings, doing the duties of a clinical psychologist. I'm no longer practicing, but I am using that knowledge and experience to help with my presentation and analysis of what we're going to be talking about throughout these lives. So just like to remind people of that, but also I, this is all for fun and entertainment, and definitely don't take any of this like as mental health help or any, stuff like that. So, um, all right, let's get into it. So yeah, I think I will start with I think we'll start with the since I'm gonna plan on doing that video like another day. Oh wait, I'm gonna write down the time real quick so I remember these timestamps when I get done. Let's see here. Is that 11:30 to start the what prison vacation? All right. Oh, also, thank you all again for being here. I really appreciate you. And if you haven't, please like the video and subscribe. It's free. And it like really helps out like small creators, which I am. So yeah, let's let's start off with okay, wait, hold on. I have to figure out how to do this sharing thing. Okay. Oh fuck. Oh no. This is fine. This is fine. Oh, shit. Okay. 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 And then I'll do this. Alrighty. All right. So there has been a lot of reports that have come out over like the last few days and like week about how Bryan Kohberger is doing in prison. And this is all after he was um sentenced in July and sentenced to 4 life sentences in the Idaho State Correctional like uh what do they call it? Organization, administration. I don't know. What is it? Prison system. I don't know. Anyways, so you know what I'm talking about. Idaho State prisons. And I used to work as a forensic psychologist in Minnesota State prisons, and I've worked in several different levels. I worked at a kind of more of like a level, I guess you'd call it like 2 or 3, and that was like where guys went and like were transferred to after they did a lot of time, and then were like starting to transition to lower security levels to like eventually get out of prison, and that way they can kind of like see what's going on with you and if you're like doing better and like kind of be like, okay, this is serious. But like now, if you aren't on this like super high level of security and you can still behave yourself, like that proves like to us that you're doing well, you know? Um, and that's like for certain people that are asking for like early release or like to get off on like not on probation, but on parole. So, and this is in the Minnesota prison system, but I'm sure it's like really similar to the way a lot of other prisons work as well. At least all the other prisons that I like have learned about from getting involved with like or like interested in true crime stuff and reading about that type of information and also from applying to a bunch of these systems as well. Yeah, so I think it'd be good to just, I think I'm gonna pull up like a People article that I found that talks about kind of um the notes that have been sent and like to the prison guards like within prison, which is like the way that prisons kind of notify. It's called, at least in Minnesota, it's called the kite system, and it is how a offender gets in touch with like their social worker, like a like to report something that's happening in like the actual like just like their cell block or at their job, or if they're seeing psych or mental health services, like that's, or like their bosses, if they have a job, they can like get in touch all through these kites. But there's no other ways. They don't like have the ability to like call us on our line at the prison, you know? So, and also with email, like we don't, I know that they do have like an email system, but we don't um contact them through that. That's like purely for their personal stuff. So yeah, and I'll just pull that up now and talk about what I read in the article. I think would be the best way to go about that. And also, no, that's fine. And then, mm, so, oh wait, how about this? I thought I figured this out before I learned it. So, oh wait, no. Oh, um, let's see. Oh, okay, we'll do this. Like that. Okay, and then, what if I can, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah. What now, biatches? Oh, perfect. That's what we want. Okay, right? Is this working now? I hope so. No, but where? Where's my link? Here it is. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So here we have the and if hopefully everyone is seeing everything right now. And again, I'm sorry, I'm getting better practice with all that. So I'm gonna actually write down the time for this. Because oh, here it is. Then I can just get through all this bullshit. And I'm sorry for anyone that does not have the availability to do that at this point. So we are at 1907. Okay, actual start. Alrighty. So, People says Bryan Kohberger, a vegan, accuses prison of denying him food alternatives, demands full tray at meals. Okay, so this was published yesterday, and there's more than this. He's also reporting like Priya complaints. Oh, and I took like screenshots so we can see in depth like what these actually say. So here it says Bryan Kohberger, 30, is accusing the staff at Idaho Maximum Security Institution of denying him food replacements with his meals, which I believe that. Also, I'll say I like didn't like I mentioned, working at a minimal level prison, but I also worked at a maximum level, two different maximum level prisons. Level four is what they're three and four is what they're called in Minnesota. And he does not provide examples, but is a vegan and wrote a July 31st complaint. The nutritional standard is not being upheld unless I receive my full tray. And to me, this like just screams autism, honestly. But I'll get into that more as I kind of go on here. Kohberger has filed 5 formal complaints in his 3 weeks in prison, claiming he is being sexually harassed and threatened, and requesting transfer to a new cell block. Oh, I didn't know that. 5 formal complaints, huh? Well, I have a couple, and I'll pull those up with pictures. Let's see here. It's this one. Oh, this is the one they're talking about. Look at the way he writes too. It's like horrible writing. And the other thing that I was thinking about, like, I don't know if like anyone has really talked about this extensively, but it definitely I feel like is should be addressed and is like important to address in terms of where he's at like mentally and mental health and behavior wise and how to like actually interpret some of these behaviors because I feel like everyone is kind of making their own interpretations when they have like really no like grounding or basis for that. And I think what we do have like a grounding and basis for at this point, like no one has been taken into account. I know everyone's probably gonna be like, oh, this lie, this is bullshit, but it's like, no, like I've actually worked in these settings and like know a lot of these actual disorders and like presentations and like this is not bullshit. This is like to me really real. So I mean, and it's not saying that an autistic person or a person with autism can't also be a like quadruple red rummer, but I'm just saying that interpreting him as some, psycho, like heartless, literal socio-psychopathic dude, I think is just like a little basic of an interpretation and like not really nuanced. And I think it's dumb. And I've talked about that in other videos that I've had. I can't remember which ones where I've discussed like my thoughts about the like legal system and kind of how we can weaponize medical health and even physical health disorders when we can make up our own legal rules about like what actually is something and what actually isn't something, such as like a psychopath or someone with autism. And how that affects you legally. Like I actually am super my like most interesting topic for me is the overlapping of um like severe mental illness and like the legal system or the criminal justice system. So, so it looks like up here he's in, okay, MSI, let's see. So it says J2 is his unit, 33 is his cell. MSI is housing, which I think that's, I want to say the institution is, I wonder, institution housing. Yeah, because there is different housings. Like, for example, there's segregation. I think that wouldn't, oh, wait, no, 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 it says housing unit. I'm dumb. That's why I was like, what? Okay, so he's at, is he at Idaho Maximum Security Institute, J2 housing unit, and then cell 33. I think that's what it is. And he didn't put down a bed one or bed two, so that to me suggests that he is alone in his cell. And J2, like they usually do blocks, like or like I guess like units, but they're usually called blocks. And like segregation is probably a block. It'd be like maybe seg block. I don't know if they call it that, if rather than just seg. Then there's also like security, like for housing for security. And in Minnesota, that's interesting because we don't actually have what do they call it? Like what's like when they're security, like they house them for security concerns, like protection. Is it called like um housing? What is it called? Anyways, I think I know you guys, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But that's dumb. I don't know that, but I wouldn't know it because Minnesota doesn't have it. But everyone knows it though. Like where they're like being protective housing. Is it protective housing? Okay, so anyways, for protective housing, and they actually only have protective housing in Minnesota, and I think it's probably the same way in Idaho, from what it sounds like, is that and like different cell blocks that represent different things. Like there's like I know in one institution in Minnesota, there's like a I think it's like it might even be J block, that they or maybe no, it's B block. I think it's B block that they all don't have jobs because they've like had a lot of like um incidents, like behavior incidents or acting out incidents, like while being incarcerated, and so they've lost their jobs or had privileges taken away. Um, and like LOP is like loss of privileges, which can be like a separate thing from like their housing units and stuff. But they will like it's like I'm just known as a rowdier unit. And then there's like another one that's for people that have like severe mental illnesses, like people that are like a vulnerability. Like, because it's weird. What's so weird about like prison, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand, is like a lot of the times people don't get found like not guilty for reason of insanity, even if they are mentally ill, which I disagree with. I'm just kind of like, if you have a severe mental illness where you're like having a hallucination or like a delusion and you're not based in reality, like I don't know how you can hold someone accountable for those actions necessarily. And you can hold and like not for other people. Like, are they actually saying like so what they're actually judging these people on is the way that it's written in law is like, was this person able to know right from wrong when they decided to act out this crime or, criminal behavior? And think if the jury thinks that they weren't aware of right from wrong, they had no reasoning whatsoever, then they can do not reason guilty of reason for insanity. But even if someone's hallucinating and delusional, but they still show a sign that they, you know right from wrong, like where someone might be in the middle of a delusion and they like, ripped out their son's heart because like I don't know, Jesus was telling them to or something. Um, and they were in the middle of like a psychotic episode. If that person like went to go try to cover up that crime, like try to hide the heart or something, or not tell people that she did it, then they would consider them still like being able to reason right from wrong. And like I just don't know how like anyone can make that like it's just to me kind of like a worthless um stipulation to consider. It's just like if this person's delusional, like they're gonna do shit that they wouldn't normally do. Like if I'm literally like thinking that someone is out to kill me, like I'm gonna like go to extremes to protect myself, you know? And even though like I know I have to go to extremes to like to live because this person's definitely gonna come do me in, like delusionally I'm thinking, or even like I'm having an active hallucination, this person is like keeps looking at me and like brandishing like a knife or something, stuff like that. Like I would react differently than if I knew that it was a hallucination. And these people like that actually experience these like that's not how they're thinking. They're actively psychotic, you know? So I just think that's like an important distinction that isn't made that should be like legally, and I do think that like changes should be made to that because people don't really realize, but like what is written in court and in legally and like within the laws and like whatever is not what like clinically like practicing clinicians use to diagnose people. And like there's a difference between like someone that is evaluating someone in a like forensic setting, which I have done. I've like evaluated both people before they went to the forensic setting, while they're in the forensic setting, and like also um well like during the process before they became, you know what I mean? Like but people that but stuff forensically. And anyways, hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, and then I forgot what I was talking about. So forensically. Oh yeah. So anyways, like it's interesting that differentiation. I think a lot of people don't really understand that like, you know, like when people are talking like psychopathic and stuff, and that was like something I did. I prepped this whole mental health video that I wanted to do, but then it just like kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think luckily I do have like a lot of those resources still that I prepped for that. And so I think if I don't eventually just get to that video, like I can at least use those like resources to talk about the topics that I'm talking about like in these videos, like for example what I'm talking about right now, and that is like when Bryan Kohberger, like his defense team was asking for them to not use the definitions of like psychotic or like a psychopath or a sociopath, and um like a lot of times they do that. Like people will be like, and here is a interview. Well, we're gonna call this witness to the stand who is an expert forensic psychologist. And like it's, you know, some person that just made some bullshit up. Like all the tests are bullshit, to be honest. I mean, like seriously, some of them aren't even better than chance. It's ridiculous and it's just so dumb. It's like they can just assign themselves these like experts. You know, I mean, I once was also an expert, you know, like witness and could write psych reports that were taken like very seriously by juries and by judges. Um, but it's bullshit. Like, I definitely didn't feel like I should have had that much like power in my hands, you know, behind that. And especially because the way that like forensic psychologists operate is not clinically the way, like it's actually like clinically unethical to act within some of the expectations of forensic psychology, if that makes sense. And I can get more into more details like in the future with all that, but I don't want to go off on that. I want to stick to this. But anyways, so to wrap it all up, I'm just gonna like end that there and then move on to this. But what I was gonna say about his mental health diagnoses that I don't think people are taking into consideration when speaking about his background and his presentation, how to interpret his behaviors and like where he's at mentally, what's he's thinking. Obviously, no one can predict that, but again, I don't think anyone has taken into account like what he's actually experiencing. So if you remember from like the earlier filings, and like I said, I have a mental health video that has all prepped for that with like all the different filings that related to I thought mental health or psych legal you know topics. And that was one where they were talking about his evaluation. He had a psych evaluation done for the defense, and like the defense had it done, and then it sounded like the prosecution was also getting it done, but then by the time they had to present it, they a plea agreement had already been reached. So I guess I don't know if we'll ever be seeing that information. And also, I don't know, like, psych, and I think usually medical records are considered to be like personal, like private, what do they call it? Like restricted information. So, I don't think that we'll probably be getting like a full psych report about him. And I think that at the most, we'd maybe be presented, you know, his diagnoses. And then obviously if we had, I don't know how that works, but like if we had a like expert witness come up and testify to these things that they're writing in their reports, like I don't think we would necessarily have access to those reports. I'm trying to remember from like other um, court cases, like if I've read a psych report before that isn't one of mine. And I have a bunch of redacted psych reports from for like that cover a ton of different diagnoses and settings and situations and like referral questions, and I think that might be kind of cool to show you guys that in the future too. Like they're pretty interesting, and um, I think it's a good way to break down and kind of explain like really logically where my opinions are stemming from, and not just like kind of like talking a bunch of, hot air about all these like outlandish opinions that I have without actually like backing it up with something. So, um, but I, yeah, um, Bryan Kohberger he had three diagnoses that the psych reports had initially, and like maybe I should just write this down. Like I think we should go over that stuff, and I'll look back into that fucking tonight. But I think right now, just believe me, like when I say that the three diagnoses he was given were, and I can't remember exactly which documents they're from, but they were in the documents that were released before all of these new documents started being like unsealed and released. So, and it was like the last few bunches of filings that had taken place in like throughout the like from January until present day that kind of covered all of these like mental health things and like the defense filings and like the arguments and like the findings and whatever they call them. I guess like argument. I can't remember like whatever plea or um what do they call them? Sentence. It's like a whatever hearing. It's like a hearing talking about a whatever a matter raised. I'm not like a lawyer. So, anyways, but the three diagnoses that came up in those initial um reports, which were done by the defense, but also had like multiple, it was like really strong evidence of kind of the diagnoses, and a lot of them matched. And so I would be really interested to see how the prosecution witness, expert witness, would have uh like diagnosed him or like evaluated him, or it'd be really interesting to compare. But what came out in that defense, what in those defense filings, is that Brian had um he had ASP, like autism spectrum disorder, ASD, autism spectrum disorder, and it was level. Oh my God, I can't believe I don't remember this right now. I think it was like level one, and then because there's different levels. Um, okay, wait, hold on. Look and find psych docs with BK's diagnoses. Okay, but so that was one, and I also have like a DSM I can reference to, and I'm just trying to fucking remember which actual ruling that was. I think I kind of want to find it because I do just want to get his actual, before I start talking about like his behaviors and stuff, I do want to make sure that I have an accurate um diagnosis for him. So I'm gonna look in my BK diet. What does this say? Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, but which ones? Okay, so I did take all these notes and they sound great. So good job to me about that. But I like actually want to find this freaking document. It's annoying. I'm gonna ask. Oh wait, I think I'm sorry, you guys. Okay, wait. Um, document. State's motion to exclude psych defense. Okay, wait. Here we go. Exhibit. Oh, where'd it go? New. Oops. Okay, wait. Here we go. All right. So this was notes that I took before when like I said, I was making that video. So it says contains Exhibit D7 was sealed, and it contains defense expert psychological report. Submitted as part of BK's mitigation defense likely includes diagnoses and testing details, which is sealed. And then Exhibit D13 is second sealed psych report submitted by defense. Contents remain confidential, but critical to defense mental health strategy. Psych 1 states motion to exclude defense expert testimony filed in response to defense mental health disclosures argues that expert testimony should not be admitted due to procedural or evidentiary flares, flaws. Okay, order granting state's limited psychological exam. This is where the court allowed the state to conduct a rebuttal psych evaluation, which I just talked about, but restricts tools like personality tests. So, and I can get more into, I kind of already mentioned that, but like I have done a ton of psych evaluations that are in legal settings and in correctional settings. So, including probably everything that they are talking about here. And there is one called the like PCLR, the hair, which is like a test that determines whether or not someone has psychopathy, and I've actually given it and written reports on it, but it's total bullshit. I don't think it should be used at all. I'm glad that they're starting to like actually not allow it in court because it's based off of nothing. And like I said, it's psychopathology is a thing of like that you can call all diagnoses, but like a psychopath is not an actual thing. I mean, it's a made up thing, but it's not like an actual clinical diagnosis. Like it's not widely accepted. It's just people kind of made it up and were like, let's make up this thing and then like try to do studies on it. But it's like, okay, why? Um, and then yeah, so for example, and like also it is interesting how they like get some of these psych tests like included in legal reports. And I mean, I've used them and I like to use them to like benefit clients, but like they're also most of the time used to like not help or like support or protect or make sense of a client. It's like just to be able to like oppress them more or use that against them in some way, like as a mitigating thing where like it's like actually like it's exacerbates, doesn't like mitigate. Okay, so defense notice of mental condition evidence announces intent to present uh, Asperger's spectrum disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and DCD, which DCD is what I will also get into that is relating to what I initially got me talking on this, back to the Kohberger prison stuff. So I'm sorry about that, but um, and it says other diagnosis as part of penalty phase mitigation from basis to later mental health filings. So, or forms basis for later mental health filings. Okay, so let's find that one. Defense notice. Defense notice. What is this? No. Oh, here we go. No. What's this? Ooh, this is it. Okay, wait. Defendant's exhibit list for death penalty motion regarding grounds. That's right. Oh, sweet, 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 sweet. What's this now? These are all psych.court. These, so this was the time. Okay, these were all the, I thought that these were the documents that all related to mental health diagnoses that I made a little chart for. See, look at all this work that I do, you guys. That's why I'm like nowhere to be found, just because I'm making all this crazy shit and then like never actually like sharing it with people. But where the hell is this bullshit? Washington. What the fuck is it called again? What the hell, you guys? Where's it called? Oh my God, you guys. Where is to notice death penalty? This might be it. Maybe this is it. Oh, what? Well, this is interesting, guys. Let me just do this real quick. Am I reading this right? PowerPoint by Professor Kober and data in support of study. Redacting child and child sexual assault victim names. Why would that be relevant to Brian? Hereby files with the court his redacted Exhibit A. At the hearing held on November 2nd, 2024, Judge Hibla granted the defense permission to file a redacted copy of the below exit. Where is that? Oh, narrowing death eligibility. Oh, cool, cool, cool. Ah, I like that. I like that. Hmm. So this is like stuff that they do, which is interesting that, like they do for psych stuff too. It's like people are like, okay, let's try to pretend like we know what's going on and that we know how we can impact that, and let's present it as facts and like call us ourselves stuff and like use like lingo that no one else knows. So like everyone else thinks we know what we're talking about and thinks we're really important, and then we can just do whatever we want. And that is kind of what everyone does for this bullshit, to be honest. I mean, it's like whoever you want to pay to find shit can find shit. And especially because no one understands how to like read data or like interpret results, which is the problem. Like we can't just take people's words for it. Like we need to actually understand it, because they just pull our legs. And like they've been doing in this case too, but not the defense really, but um blah 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 shibam, shibam. How long is this? Oh, so I don't know, you guys. Anyways, I guess I can't go into that, but like I said, just take my word. Brian is diagnosed with, I really wish I knew what level it was though, because level one is like the most, which like, here, hold on, let me look. Maybe I should ask ChatGPT. I wonder if ChatGPT is. Where are you? Okay, I'm gonna be like, what are Bryan Kohberger's actual actual diagnoses reported in his legal? Oh, sweet. I love this. Cool. Says these are the only. Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. Perfect. Dude, this is such a good fucking reference to have. Thank you, ChatGPT. I appreciate it. Okay. I'll send it to myself too. Where do I save it to? God, you guys, this is so dumb. Whatever. Okay, I'll do this later, but I can't forget because I really wanna. Let me just messages, bitches. All right, whatever. Alrighty, sorry. Like I said, I'll share this later, but so this is good information, and here is the DSM, and I think this actually is not the most updated version, so that's my bad. But let's see. So hopefully it's accurate still, actually, because I know that they did the changes to the Asperger's and autism spectrum disorder came out in this edition, and I don't really know exactly what the updated version of this. I think it's called like DSM-5, like TM or something. Um, so and it says in the filings that he is level one, and that and because they have different like clarifications or specifications and different disorders. And so he's level one. I think there's 5 different levels that you can have with autism spectrum disorder. And like before, there was like Asperger's and then autism, and there's like different levels of autism still. But like now, like they're all considered like disorders of the same type on a spectrum. And they've done that with like a lot of the disorders, which I think is pretty smart because I kind of think that every like mental health like trait or um, I guess like yeah, mental health trait or factor. I think everything kind of goes out on like a plane from like high to low. Um, like you can meet like an extremely shy like person, which might, I don't know, someone that's mute and like whatever, and then on the other end of someone that's like extremely overly like, social or like a histrionic person or something. But luckily I don't think they have histrionic personality disorder anymore. They better not. That's like so fucking like 90 somebody. So a lot of shit is stupid, but okay. So, autism spectrum disorder. Okay, that is page 50. All right. So, I think this is important to go over because I feel like people are definitely forgetting what autism means. Um, And you also have to specify if it is accompanied with a intellectual impairment, a language impairment, if it's associated with a known medical or genetic condition or environmental factor, if it's associated with another neurodevelopmental or behavioral disorder, and with catatonia. And catatonia is like basically when you um are catatonic. So like you're not responding to anything basically. Like you're still awake, but you're not like really aware. Um and you're just like zoned out. So let's see. Diagnostic criteria of autism spectrum disorder is A, presents deficits in social communication and social interaction across multiple contexts as manifested by the following currently or by history. It says examples are illustrative, not exhaustive. See text. So, um, this is saying, um, okay, wait. Presents deficits in social communication and social interaction across multiple contexts as manifested by the following, currently or by history. So that means manifested by the following. That means that he has to have all three of these. So of A, he needs to have all three of the factors below that. So deficits in social emotional reciprocity, ranging, for example, from abnormal social approach and failure of normal back and forth conversation to reduced sharing of interest, emotions, or affect to failure to initiate or respond to social interactions. So we know that Bryan definitely has that as like we can see and we'll go over. I'm not sure if like everyone has read all the documents that have been released and all the reports that we have seen, but I did and I got a lot of people discussing Bryan and their interactions with him during this was by the Idaho State Police. It's like the last like 150 documents where they're like interviewing witnesses for the crime and like about Bryan and like people that he went to school with or his neighbors and professors that interacted with him and also cellmates and schoolmates. So we know that from abnormal social approach. He's totally an abnormal social approach. We have seen that from the start with all of his like getting pulled over. He is just like not good. And everyone that like talks about him in all of these interviews, as will show up later, like um, they're like, yeah, I don't know, he's just odd. I don't know. I don't really know, but I'm like he's fine, but he's just like pretty weird, you know? Like, but of course, like after the fact, everyone's like, of course, like he was like that because he's psycho. But it's like, but before they were thinking, and it was like. No, like, yeah, weird, but whatever. Just like kind of feel bad for the guy because you just can tell that he like doesn't know how to talk to people and I think also a lot of problems that happens with autism and people with autism spectrum disorders is like they get misread and a lot of the times their behaviors are misattributed like wrongfully to certain things and people make these assumptions that are absolutely not accurate and the person with autism doesn't even like realize what the hell they just did that might even be awkward because they're just not great with being able to take other people's perspectives in a way like that a lot of other people can. Like a lot of times it's harder for them to get like out of themselves kind of. So we can definitely say that he has that confirmed by multiple written reports. And then number two, deficits in nonverbal communication behaviors used for social interaction, ranging, for example, from poorly integrated verbal and nonverbal communication, poorly integrated verbal and non to abnormalities in eye contact and body language, or deficits in understanding and use of gestures, to a total lack of facial expression and nonverbal communication. So we know that too. I mean, people again with the reported like look at his psychopathic eyes you can tell that there's nothing behind them but it's like well yeah and also he has autism and like that can definitely be like displayed that way with people and it doesn't mean that like they're dead behind their eyes it just means that like they're not like intaking and processing information the same way that all of us are or that like a lot of us are and like we also know that there's different reports. Like I think I kind of giggle sometimes. I don't mean to giggle. It's not like nice to like obviously make fun of people with mental health issues, but like over time, like and that's why I went into like clinical psychology. It's like I really have like a lot of compassion for people that have like severe mental illnesses and just for like a lot of just for people in general. And I like think some of these things that other people are like weird or like just strange, I find them like kind of endearing. And you know, when people are like describing the way that he like walks in prison, like they're like, yeah, and then he like took a weird walk from his bed to whatever, like you could just tell he just I'll have to find that and like come back and show that to you guys. But I just like when I read it, I kind of giggled because I was like, oh my God, I can totally like imagine him just like being kind of like a weirdo, you know? And also people that have OCD have like a lot of, and like we'll get into that too because he also is diagnosed with OCD. And like people with OCD can have like the weirdest habits, you know? Like it'll be like someone that goes to open the door and then like they'll all of a sudden have to like touch the doorknob like 3 times or something, you know? And or like repeat things with cupboards or certain clocks or counting and just things like that. So, and also with his hands and like the people talking about how his hands are always like jacked up. That's 100% OCD. I actually remember, and I wish I had proof of this, but I was saying it like in the beginning when people were like talking about how it was so weird how he was wearing gloves everywhere and like how his knuckles were like, you know, like really red. And I was like, dude, that's like what people with OCD, dude, like do. Like, especially after COVID. I mean, have you ever watched Mr. Bean? I like seriously, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Mr. Bean. Um, because yeah, like some people are just kind of geniuses, but like also pretty quirky. Like people that are in Mensa, like I have two cousins that are in Mensa, and they're fucking weird as hell. You know, it's like they almost like lose the ability to like have social contact because like their you know savantness of like whatever. And not everyone's like that, and like it's on a spectrum, you know. And like some people are different than others, like where you might have like an incredibly genius person that has no problem socially either. But you know, all of this is like can be different levels and presentations of things, you know. Okay, so then number three is deficits in developing, maintaining, and understanding relationships, ranging, for example, from difficulties in adjusting behavior to suit various social contexts to difficulties in sharing imaginative play or in making friends or absence of interest in peers. So we also can say that, like, it sounds like people said that he doesn't have a lot of friends, he had trouble making friends. We hear this in the reports from his like you know peers in grad school, but I have my opinions on those peers in grad school. Like, I honestly think that those are completely taken out of context and like shouldn't even be taken. I mean, I guess it's like people stating their opinions, but like they don't like, I mean, unless you're stating facts, like, and also like again, like understand that like people with autism are not as good at like presenting information or like reacting to social cues as other people. So like where someone might come in and be like, oh my God, that guy is such a jerk. He like does not care about anyone. He's so condescending. He's such an asshole. Like instead might actually be someone that is like really well meaning, but it has is struggling with like all of these other issues that make it difficult for him to interact in that way. And you have to like be able to as you know a person that can not be a like total judgmental biatch, like hopefully be able to take in that information and like don't just assume things like and also try to talk to someone about it without I mean, it does say that he maybe was talked about it, but it never really shows where anyone actually addressed him and told him what was wrong, and he didn't do something to change it. Period. So if anyone can cite that for me, like please do, because all of these reports about you know how he like was so rude to these women and like all of it I think is false and like I said that's all included in like the last like 150 documents of the Idaho State Police documents that just got released that I'm like wanting to present. So I will go over those and we can discuss those like later in the video. So all right, moving on. Um oh wait, okay, so we'll get to that. All right. Restrictive, okay, so this is so that was diagnostic criteria A. Then diagnostic criteria B is restricted repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities as manifested by at least two of the following currently or by history. So now we have four of the criteria underneath criteria B, and we only need to choose two of them in order for him to meet this diagnosis. So we'll go over these four and talk about if he has any of them. So stereotyped or repetitive motor behavior, movements, use of objects or speech. Example, simple motor stereotypies, lining up toys or flipping objects. Ecoli that one word is like echolalia. I know I'm not pronouncing it right, but that's like repeating back to you words that are said by other people. Like, so, a mother might be talking around their like autistic child and they might say, yeah, we're gonna do that this weekend, and then the person will be like, weekend, like that, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And idiosyncratic phrases. And this is the thing that, again, like I was a clinical forensic psychologist and I have, done these diagnoses a million times. And it's still this stupid fucking psychological lingo. And it's so funny because they're like, yeah, like make sure that when you're writing the reports, like you can write it at a level where these people that are going to be getting this feedback and you're wanting to help the person who's getting this evaluation, which is why you're doing the assessment in the first place, like you want to be able to give them feedback so they can improve or like help support them with any like difficulties that they might be having related to some of these behaviors or symptoms. And like, with this lingo and writing it down and basing all of our, like expert opinions on it, it doesn't help our clients at all. It doesn't help people. It like just continues to make sure that like we're at a level as doctors and psychologists to like make sure that you guys all RESP ECT what we have to say and like make sure that there's no room for replacing us in this system either because like we're super, super important, So that's just annoying to me because it's super unnecessary and it's not helpful at all. It's just like very elitist and bullshit. Just my opinion. But yeah, so we know that Brian has done those things even without knowing those like other weird things that they mean. Like idiosyncratic phrases. Like what would that even be example? It'd be something like top of the morning to you or something like someone just like repeating phrases like that or like I don't know. Maybe I'll Google it later, but I honestly like whatever. So, but we do see like in the videos and the like pictures that we've gotten from prison and also in the reports that we have about him doing weird shit when he got arrested with, trash and like bagging it up and sorting it and shit like that, yeah, is weird, but unless you have autism and like that is just a behavior that you have that is, just part of your like symptomology. And, it shouldn't bother anyone else. Like, I don't know why anyone cares. It's obviously more of their problem, So, I mean, it's maybe just like a little bit different, but we also see it in the picture with him on the bed, like where he is in prison, those new pictures and videos that they just released, and he's like has everything set up on his bed, like in order in a line. Like that's fits right exactly into this too. And from what I imagine, what they're reporting in the report when they arrested him at his house in Pennsylvania, like, and when he was doing that sorting and stuff, like that is, also another example of that. Okay, so we have one. Two, insistence on sameness, inflexible adherence to routines or ritualized patterns of verbal or nonverbal behavior. Example, extreme distress at small changes, difficulties with transitions, rigid thinking patterns, greeting rituals, need to take same route or eat same food every day. Okay, so we also have this. We have definitely him showing inflexibility to different and like being able to adhere to certain routines. Like we can tell that when he started school, it was difficult for him to adjust to that transition. He was like calling his parents a lot for support. Like I know when I started grad school, I was constantly on the phone with my parents because it was so traumatizing. And it was confusing, and like especially with someone with autism that doesn't maybe like understand or read people very well. I think it'd be super hard for him, and especially like how mean people can be. Like people can bully people. And I do feel like a lot of those reports that I was reading from his like, program at school was a lot of just like mean girl comments, to be honest. Like it was kind of sad. It was like shitty. Like I don't know. I mean, I know that like he's a not a perfect guy, but like I don't think like all these things that they're saying about him are accurate. I think they're unfounded too. But And we know he also has like rigid thinking patterns in terms of like I again like as we get into the like documents and they start getting more detailed about his interactions with his like peers and teachers is that it is difficult for him to maybe being able to wrap his mind around something. I mean, like another thing would be like, when he got pulled over and like for the um problem with like stopping in the crosswalk and he was like very particular about kind of finding out what the rules are now here in Idaho and um making sure that he understood the difference because in Pennsylvania that's not the way they did it. Um and I think we also see like we might be seeing if we see his like records that he did take similar paths, like routes to like go do weird things at night or like go to Mecca or whatever. Also like eat same food every day. He's like kind of weird about food, like vegan. I'm sure he like didn't have, I mean, we don't know for sure, but it would be interesting to hear, um, kind of what his diet looks like every day. And the fact that he is a vegan, he probably doesn't have a lot of options. So even if we don't count that one, we still have options for two more. And then next one, number three, highly restricted fixed interests that are abnormal in intensity or focus. Um, so, for example, strong attachment to or preoccupation with unusual objects, excessively circumscribed or perseverative interest. Perseverative interest. Well, to be honest, that might be like his interest in like you know cops and the legal system and criminal justice and like also um what were his strong attachments to unusual objects? I don't know if we have that. But I bet we could ask his like friends and family and maybe find it. Um, highly restricted fixated interests that are abnormal in intensity or focus. Yeah, I mean, I think that might be true. Like we can see it, like you usually don't get into grad school unless you're like very highly focused. Although I don't, I mean, I guess that could fit a criteria, but to me that doesn't scream autism, but it does kind of fit that, so I don't know. And then the last one is hyper or hypo reactivity to sensory input or unusual interest in sensory aspects of the environment. Okay, so, and I'll read the examples real quick, but for sure what we know is his reports about, well, we know that vegan food is a big thing to him, and he got like really into his diet that we found out last year from his friends that talked about him when he sobered up and stuff and like and I think a lot of it also had to do with something that he had that he talked about called visual snow and then he also wrote about online and I also have like a lot of notes. I was going to make a video about that as well, but again I did the same shit where I just like kind of got too note taking focused and wasn't able to actually just like put it out at a time that I thought would be like relevant or not weird putting out, which was dumb of me. So anyways, but yeah, like he definitely had visual snow and he got like really, really obsessed with like his sight and like how it affected him. And he, as we saw, like he was kind of preoccupied with it. He was like writing on different forums when he was a teenager. And then it also was stated that his diet was changed, I think, in response to the visual snow because he started realizing that like certain like nutrition or like intakes like it affected how other things in his body um like I guess displayed itself, or presented itself. So I think that he has like basically fits all four of those, even though we only needed two of them. And I think that we could definitely find two solid ones if we wanted to, obviously. So they said an example would be apparent indifference to pain, temperature, adverse response to specific sounds or textures, excessive smelling or touching of objects, visual fascinations with lights or movement. So we've got that. And then also the last three criteria are that the symptoms must be present in the early developmental period, but may not become fully manifest until social demands exceed limited capacities or may be masked by learned strategies later in life. So we know that that definitely affected him. It was reported that he struggled growing up. He had a disorder that I'll talk about next called like developmental um disorder. I think developmental movement disorder, but I'll make sure that that's correct. So, and I think, yeah, so anyways, we have that. And that says symptoms cause clinically significant impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of current functioning, which we know is true, as he has like showed in like his inability to like create long and meaningful friendships, his like ability to keep work without them assuming that he's a total weirdo, even though they probably did not know he had autism. And if they did, like shame on them, you know? Um, and yeah, other important areas of life, like um, yeah, like I mean, it sounds like he's managed to be able to get to a high level, like a high functioning level place, but he's also is smart, so he's found ways to be able to like cope with the symptoms a little bit better than maybe if other people would. Um, and then also that these disturbances are not better explained by intellectual disability or global development delay. And it says intellectual disability and autism spectrum disorder frequently co-occur to make comorbid diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder and intellectual disability social communication should be below that expected for general developmental level. And he does not have an intellectual disability, so we don't need to take that into account. And we know that he doesn't have any of these other specifications that I read up earlier. And then there is a table with five levels. Wait, hold on. Oh no, three levels. And so here is the pages for the autism spectrum disorder. And then we give him, yep, he's diagnosed, fits the criteria, and then we have to specify if he is which one of these levels, which is there's one through three, the levels are. And so these are the examples. He is diagnosed with level one, I think they said, right? Okay. Level one, without intellectual or language impairment. So, like we had already um, found out just then that that is what he had, and then the level that they said level one. So level one is requiring support, and that's true of like any. If you're ever going to give a mental health diagnosis, like and as you read and like all of the criteria, that like you can have all of these disorders, but like or all these symptoms, and you can just like display all of these different symptoms and behaviors, but unless it's like significantly impacting your quality of life in some way, or it's hindering like your level of success in different areas, like it wouldn't be diagnosed because like mental health concerns are diagnosed when they're at a clinical level of being a problem. So like if you are depressed and you're at like levels of clinical depression, if you're put on antidepressives and you become not depressed, like you are no longer like at that time clinically depressed, but you have a diagnosis with like a clinical depression, and like there's ways to specify that, but they'll say whether or not you're in a current episode, and then like it'll describe certain episode levels or like different characteristics that come with the different types of episodes, like whether or not they're psychotic or whether or not they're like just based off of like certain delusions or stuff like that. So yeah, and then so anyways, the level one here is requiring support. So it says without supports in place, deficits in social communication cause noticeable impairments, which we've already proven, and that is also with having support. So he's definitely like struggling still, and also receiving like support for these things. And then so restricted repetitive behavior. So inflexibility of behavior causes significant interference with functioning in one or more of one or more contexts, different difficulties switching between activities, problems of organization and planning, hamper independence, which sounds like he had some major time issues, like, and he was like inflexible of, kind of stopping some of these rituals that he had. The level two is requiring substantial support, so that is they're the same type of behaviors, like repetitive behaviors, but they appear frequently enough to be obvious to the casual observer and interfere with functioning in a variety of contexts and distress and or difficulty changing focus or action. So I think that's fair to say that like if people don't know Brian very well, like his peers um at school or people that he's met in his neighborhood, they wouldn't necessarily be picking up on all these like you know, deficits or difficulties or problems, I guess, or behaviors. And if they are, then that's showing that he's at a higher level of, like, I guess, disorder or like problematic functioning. And so when all these people are out here saying that they can tell that he's not autistic and that he knows everything that's going on and that he like has all this control over himself because of ways that he's acted or things that he's displayed in the past, like I don't think we have enough context or like are taking into account enough time or information to really like be able to say for sure that he doesn't have these things. As we can see, he's level one, not level two. Um, and it says abnormal response. Okay. It says that so level two is also like social difficulties with support, still really problematic with support. So level one is um without supports, you have difficulty with it. And then level two is that you have support and you're still having difficulty with it, which to be honest, I would maybe even have diagnosed him with level two because I think people were able to tell from interacting with him. And like with some of these behaviors, like always washing his hands, or I'm sure like his friends probably could tell you like different weird rituals. Definitely his family, I'm sure, and that's what support someplace. I'm sure he was getting like some type of like, I guess I shouldn't say I'm sure. I don't know if he went into any type of therapy or counseling or had help with his mental health symptoms, but I would assume unless he hadn't been diagnosed previously, which it sounded like he had a history of ASD and like his behaviors of OCD were like definitely extreme enough, I think, to um be um yeah, noticed. But so anyways, yeah, and then level three is requiring very substantial support. So this is severe deficits in verbal and nonverbal social communication skills, and they cause severe impairments in functioning. So that's like someone that is like really showing super bad functioning and also receiving a ton of extra help. So this is people that are like maybe nonverbal or like are unable to like really function in the community without a support person with them because they just aren't able to really get their mind to like focus on certain areas or stuff like that. And then it says also for the restricted repetitive behaviors, the inflexibility of behavior, extreme difficulty coping with change, and great distress, difficulty changing focus or action. Um, and it says repetitive behaviors markedly interfere with functioning in all spheres, which again, we can say he made it to grad school and that he was able to sober up and um, he had sounds like he has a good relationship with his family, so I don't think we would be able to give him a level three here. So yeah, so I think we can go ahead and definitely say that he had a ASD, like in my opinion, I guess, like I can't diagnose him. I've never met him, and I'm not, a practicing clinician, but um, in my opinion, and uh, there's like a different word for that opinion, but I I guess conceptualize him as displaying OCD. I mean ASD. And I would say level like between a level 1 and level 2 to be honest. Okay, so then we also know that he has OCD. So let's go over OCD because again, like I feel like so many of his behaviors can really be um attributed to his disorders. I did not expect to take this much time with this, but I do think it's important to have these in our minds context in order to like move forward. It makes me kind of want to have a drink though, because I'm just like, "Meow." So I kind of want to go get one, but so maybe I'll do that real quick. But um, let me find OCD real quick. Okay, 237. Alrighty. So here are the diagnostic criteria for this. So, like last time, there is an A, B, C, and D. You need to have the presence of all four of those. So, diagnostic criteria number one is the presence of obsessions, compulsions, or both. And then there's a definition of obsessions and compulsions, and they can be defined by either one or two of each of these. So I'll just read the following criteria or behaviors. So obsessions are defined by recurrent and persistent thoughts, urges, or images that are experienced at some time during the disturbance as intrusive and unwanted, and that in most individuals cause marked anxiety or distress. And then also, like, so for that, it says as defined by one and oh, it says as defined by one and two. So he does meet both of these criteria. So we know he has that because of like, let's just, for example, use washing hands as an example. And I'm sure he has a lot more too that we don't know about. Like, for example, whatever he was doing with those like weird scraps of paper and like garbage or whatever in the kitchen. But I think we have a very easy example with the washing hands because we know that is like actually reported in a documented history. So he meets number one. And then, okay, so here it says recurring or persistent thoughts, urges, or images that are experienced. So I guess we don't know. He hasn't specifically reported that to us, but the second one, which is the individual attempts to ignore or suppress such thoughts, urges, or images, or to neutralize them with some other thought or action. Example, by performing a compulsion. So that's exactly what we don't know what's going on in his mind, but obviously something's going on in his head, like mind, because he keeps making like these enacting these behaviors or taking these behaviors or actions. So his constant hand washing is in a behavior, it's his attempt to ignore or to suppress. Like, so he might like, let's say, for example, he has a constant urge or he has a constant repetitive thought that really bothers him where it's like, your hands are dirty. Your hands are dirty, you're gonna get sick. That's gross. You just touched something, your hands are dirty, that's gross, you're gonna get sick and die, like nonstop. So in order to stop that from happening, he like obsessively and compulsively washes his hands or takes other like things to neutralize it, such as wearing gloves out everywhere in public or when he's handling different things at his house. So I think we can use those examples to meet both of these criteria. So again, all these other actions that everyone's like, that's so weird. Like, what is psycho? It's like, okay, maybe it is a little weird, but there's actually a disorder that he has, and other people have it too, and that doesn't point to any guilt at all. Like none of this makes him more likely to be a quadruple mass red roamer, you know? Okay, and then the compulsions are defined by, again, one and two. So we have one and two for obsessions, and then compulsions are repetitive behaviors, hand washing, ordering, checking, or mental acts, praying, counting, repeating words silently that the individual feels driven to perform in response to an obsession or according to rules that must be applied rigidly. And two, the behaviors or mental acts are aimed at preventing or reducing anxiety or distress or preventing some dreaded event or situation. However, these behaviors or mental acts are not connected in a realistic way with what they are designed to neutralize or prevent or are clearly excessive. So I honestly I guess you don't really know. Well, yeah, so I guess you need both of those. Like you need to be obsessively thinking and then obsessively attempting to stop the thinking, and then you need to be compulsively doing this action, and you need to be compulsively doing that action because you're obsessively thinking about this thing. And it's either super excessive, like constant hand washing, where it's like your hands are bleeding, or it's like your whatever you're doing isn't actually helping with it. So, for example, like your door being locked, like maybe you have a constant intrusive thought, repetitive thought that distresses you that your door's unlocked and that you're going to get broken into. And so you compulsively check your door, but like you do it 5 times, like before you leave, you have to go and check back 5 times to make sure that the door doesn't open when you pull it. Like that would be an example of something that doesn't help you actually like neutralize that. Like you just checked it. You obviously don't need to do it 5 times type of deal. So, all right. So he's got all of those. And then B, the obsessions or compulsions are time consuming. Example, take more than 1 hour per day or cause clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. So, you know, since we don't know exactly, I mean, for example, if I was doing an evaluation on him and I wanted to give him this diagnosis, I could just interview him and be like, hey, I forgot to ask you, but like, how much time do you think that you engage in like these, like, like how often are you thinking this and like how long does it take you to like act out all of these behaviors, like to respond to these thoughts? And he'd be like, oh man, it probably takes me like 3 hours a day or something. And he'd be like, oh, cool. So he meets this criteria. But since we don't have people asking the important questions, we don't know. But I would say, just, I would assume, being that we can see him in his like room and prison, like kind of doing these different back and forths, going over the couch. Like that's a long time. That's spending a lot of time, even though who else knows what he has to do in there? Nothing, but he would still be doing those things. And like, whatever he was doing in the middle of the night, we know that he is always late to things. Like it sounds like he has difficulty, um, like being able to like fit into normal time. Like he's kind of in a magical thinking time zone, or he just is like like obsessed, like compulsively unable to stop, like and get in the right like time frame or time schedule, because of these thoughts. Okay, so he has A and B, and then C. This obsessive compulsive symptoms are not attributable to the to the physiological effects of a substance. Example, a drug abuse, a medication, or another medical condition, which we know that's true because we know that he has had this diagnosis after he's been clean off of drugs. And also since it was present since he was younger and he was diagnosed with it when he was younger, and we maybe have to get specifiers, and like confirm from him or his family that these behaviors were happening and thoughts were happening like before he began his heroin addiction and whatever other like drinking habits or drugs he was doing. So we could get confirmation of that, but I'm assuming here we'll assume that he did, and then or that it's not attributable to drugs. And then finally, D, the disturbance is not better explained by the symptoms of another mental disorder. So excessive worries and generalized anxiety disorder, and like also preoccupation with appearance and body dysmorphia disorder. And it's important to like rule out some of these things because I think, there are a lot of things that overlap in terms of like how people cope for mental health and symptoms that they have. And I think it's important to differentiate whether or not it is just a part of the symptom of a disorder or if it's actually significant enough where it needs to be like directed in therapy as a specific problem. Like, for example, I've like evaluated a lot of people that have um it's called like oh wait, my God. It's like a brand new disorder and it's like trauma. It's like basically it's like severe trauma response. It's PTSD, but like it's not because of like an actual traumatic event. It's just like it's like oh, everything's basically you're constantly just been traumatized. And then you show all these different symptoms, after you've like been traumatized, and like yes, that could all fit under a like PTSD like disorder, but like it should probably be like noted with because you look at someone and you're like, holy crap, this person has 15 different like, you know, diagnoses. They're wackadoodle and like we'll never be able to help them. When instead it's like it's actually all just like a result of trauma probably and their way of like coping to the trauma or different neglect and like, you know, shitty situations a lot of times. And I don't know like what the case is with him and all of this. I don't know if we can necessarily say that is a background with that, but I think that you can definitely, you know, like with autism, it talks about how they're like, you know, thinking about things a lot and they'll do kind of like repetitive behaviors or they'll like have certain routines or like repeat certain things. And like that could be considered a part of OCD. But like I think he shows enough issues and like enough like, like symptom displays, like he presents with this significantly enough with these things to be able to like list it separately where it can still be addressed like in treatment, I guess is to say. So we can like pull out, like we can rule out since he has more than just in response to repetitive behaviors of autism, then we can say he has obsessive compulsive disorder. So, yeah, like the very last example, it says other psychotic disorders or repetitive patterns of behavior as an autism spectrum disorder. So this is separate. He fits all of these criteria. Like it's not just the repetitive behaviors of autism that he's doing. It's like in response to like repetitive thoughts and like worries and distress, you know? And it's like him doing specific repetitions to address those things, you know? And then you have to specify if it's with good or fair insight, with poor insight, and with absent insight, delusional beliefs. And I don't think we have enough information to specify that. And it wasn't specified in the filings. But I would say he has probably good or fair insight. He recognizes that obsessive compulsive disorder beliefs are definitely or probably not true, and that they may or may not be true. Like he, we've even heard in his self-reports online when he was talking about that visual snow. Like he seems to have a lot of self-insight. Like he's like able to describe his experiences like super well, which I think can be like also part of, you know, some of the symptoms of autism can like add into that too, where he just is very attune to what's going on in his body and not necessarily because he's like narcissistic or obsessed with himself. It's just that like people with autism actually do experience things like at a higher level of severity or intensity and they have like different disturbances too. Like for example, his visual smell, like that's obviously a thing. Like you know, I don't think he has that actual that's not a mental health diagnosis, visual smell. Um, but I think it probably could be noted as like another medical condition if he got like a medical diagnosis of visual snow, which I think is possible because that's a physical disorder, not a mental disorder. But I think from the sounds of things with him that he definitely probably experienced some mental health symptoms as a result of the visual smell, like the physical symptoms of that. And I think the same can be said like of people with like migraines and and I think a lot of it is connected in terms of like parts of the brain. Like a lot of like there's a certain um portion of the brain that like OCD and ASD really overlap. And I think that's super interesting because you can kind of start to target like maybe some of these like neural pathways that people are taking and like maybe areas that of their brains that aren't as well developed and like maybe focus on developing those areas, you know, better if possible. You know, or just kind of figure out like really get down into it. And yeah, I have let me pull that up. I have a note about which area of the brain it is because I'm sure people will be like, what area of that brain is that? Where are my notes? Here we go. Uh, Oops. Okay. Damn it. Where did I fucking leave that? Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. I swear to God, I thought I wrote this. Oh, here it is. At the very bottom. I said, okay, also add the article about sensory disorders and comorbid ASD and how they overlap using the insula, which connects lots of different sections of the brain. Okay, so it's not what I was thinking of. It's actually sensory disorders and ASD, but I think a sensory disorder is his um, visual snap, which is why I wrote that out. But so yeah, so I think we know that he probably does realize that his beliefs aren't true or that he is acting kind of weird, but like um yeah, like he probably doesn't think that these beliefs are true. I don't think. We'd have to ask him. But it doesn't seem like it. He seems like he's reasonable enough to be like, yeah, no, I get it. Like I know I'm not gonna die if I don't wash my hands every 5 seconds, but I'm like still gonna do it. So that's that. And then he also has another disorder called the developmental coordination disorder, which is, let's see, and I looked this up. See, I wish I knew that I was going to do this because, okay, here we go. 315.4. Well, that doesn't give me the page. Okay, I'm sorry, I should have like done this beforehand, but I just thought I didn't really realize I was going to do this. 314. Here we go. No, is it coordination? Yeah, okay, it's DCD, developmental coordination disorder. That is on page 74. And this is the last one. Thank God he doesn't have like 15 because that would be annoying. This seems to take a long time right now, but okay. Now this one has 4 diagnostic criteria. Well, number 1, or A, the acquisition and execution of coordinated motor skills is substantially below that expected given the individual's chronological age and opportunity for skill learning and use. Difficulties are manifested as clumsiness, example, dropping or bumping into objects, as well as slowness and inaccuracy of performance of motor skill. For example, catching an object, using scissors or cutlery, handwriting, handwriting, riding a bike, or participating in sports. We know he wasn't super sporty. But the handwriting thing, that is why. I'm why this is that's why I picked up this because I feel like not enough people are talking about the developmental coordination disorder, and I like now see his actual handwriting, and I'm like, dear God, this is atrocious. But if you think about it, he is diagnosed with this, and that 100% fits into this. Like his handwriting is awful. Like, dear God, like, and that's not like a doctor type handwriting person. Like, that's like, holy crap, like you never really learned how to write. Like, there's kind of maybe something wrong with you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people can be messy, but that's like a certain way to, like, I don't know. I hope that makes sense because this literally looks like a child wrote it. So, but let's see, which one is this one? I have several on several occasions. I think it's this one. Nope. It's just, oh, yep. Okay. So, anyways, back to this. I definitely think that this is a part of this, the developmental. But let me just, since started it, let's finish it. We only have three criteria to read for this developmental coordination disorder, so let's just do it. B, the motor skills deficit in criteria A significantly and persistently interferes with activities of daily living appropriate to chronological age. Examples, self-care and self-maintenance. Oh my God, remember they said that he had problems buttoning up his shirt too? And like that was like their excuse for like why he sent his mom a picture that morning because he had like a button-up shirt. And he was like, I was able to like I thought I read that. Like he was able to button it up himself. Oh, damn it. And whatever. And wanted to show his mom he did that. So that might be another example. I don't know if we can say that his handwriting like severely affected his like ability to like function in life, but right here it's super hard to kind of read. Um, and then it says, and impacts academic school oh my God, productivity, pre-vocational and vocational activities, leisure and play. So I think again, like we can see that he probably did have interference with some of these areas of life because of his problems with coordination. Again, like we haven't had a lot of people asking these specific questions related to this disorder, but I think with enough like background interviewing questions, like very simple one or two questions we could get to the bottom of this, but he's already given this diagnosis, so obviously someone else in his past has observed and confirmed that these were present at one point. So, and then C, the onset of symptoms is in the early developmental period. So I'm assuming his handwriting has always been super shitty. And probably too, like he probably just didn't develop as normally. And it would be really interesting to hear and read a little bit of his history in terms of developmental um like you know, developmental abilities and what his stages were and like if he kind of met all the like I guess normal stages of development as he grew up. Like for example, they say, what's is pretty typical. I mean, it's not horrible, like if you but like it's pretty typical to see a child crawling between this and this amount of like years or months and years. And then, it's not out of the ordinary to see children starting to use words and engage in like babble in between these amount of months and this many years or whatever. And then that's a way that you can kind of just keep up with your child and kind of notice like, okay, like maybe he's like a little bit like, on the lower end of the average, but like in all these areas, but this one area he's definitely like way behind in terms of like where other people are developmentally with him. Like for example, I actually know one of my like best friends, her sister, her first child had this, and it would took forever to figure out what was going on because it was like it is kind of weird. Like as you're reading, it's just like, well, why would that happen? Like, what does this all mean? Like, what do you mean they're having a hard time just like being able to crawl or just walk or do things like have like fluid motor abilities and like and it was constantly it was always kind of like, hey, like Lauren, like how are things going with blah blah blah. and then she's like, I don't know, she's still like not meeting any of the developmental milestones like on time, and she's always behind. And they've done a lot of testing, and they can't really figure out what's wrong with her. Like, there's definitely nothing physically wrong with her, but like it took her niece like I think she wasn't even crawling until she was like probably like 3 or 4. And now she's fine. Like, I mean, you can definitely tell she's in high school now. And she for sure has like an ISP, which is or an EIP. She has support. You can tell that she is a little bit different, but um, and like needs extra support. Like her muscles like aren't as well developed. She's like a little bit skinnier, and her face like is a kind of a little bit different looking too. But she's like super cute and fun, and like she has friends, and like she isn't able to engage like in all of the same like sports and stuff, but she does like really like arts and crafts, and they've been able to deal with it like in a way where they've been able to like support her along the way, and there hasn't been any other like huge problems like so, anyways, it's kind of hard to explain. Like, maybe I can throw up some videos. Like, if people have questions, if you guys have any questions about this stuff, like, comment below and I'll like try to follow up on that. Maybe like find a video to like show you an example of it. But I think that that sounds like what Brian had, and I would love to have an opportunity to hear a little bit more about what he actually struggled with. But I wouldn't be surprised if these are similar, like the things that I just talked about and gave examples for in my friend's niece maybe would be reported similarly with Brian. And I think it's like interesting too that these would like all kind of overlap. So we know he has like some neurological issues going on, and like, that could be used, like I'm sure people could be like, yeah, see, like he's crazy, he's neurologically crazy, and that's why he did the murders. And I think, sure, like there's a lot of not neurologically like people that don't have these neurological problems that don't do that, but like I think it's still important in order to like interpret and really make any types of like real factual statements that aren't just assumptions about him, and unless we really really take into consideration all of the possibilities of what could actually be happening and what he might actually be presenting with, or what he might be thinking or doing, and all those things. Like, so, anyways, I think, that's where I was coming from with all of these. The last thing is the motor deficits are not better explained by intellectual disability or visual impairment and are not attributable to a neurological condition affecting movement, such as cerebral palsy, or muscular dystrophy. And that's true. I mean, even though we do, like I just mentioned, he has a neurological like stuff going on, but he doesn't have like an actual diagnosis of a neurological condition. Maybe there should be one that we don't have yet. Um, and we know it's not explained by intellectual disability because he shows, I think it sounds like he was like slightly above average or average intelligence. That he obviously made it to grad school, so that shows that he is able to function, intellectually at a normal level. And it's not from a visual impairment either, because I don't think that we can say like because of visual. I mean, maybe you could say because of visual snow he writes weird like this, but you wouldn't say that because of visual snow he's having problems like with motor like movements such as buttoning a shirt, or like maybe if he had problems with like beginning to walk, or doing things like with anything with the fine motor skills like painting or anything like that, or like really sports. So just take that into mind, and all of those things too when you're reading, like, and trying to think about what he's actually like going through and thinking, and what the meaning behind these actual um I guess examples of Brian that we get, because we don't get like a lot of them from him. We don't get much from him. So I think it is super interesting to me to be able to have the evidence of these kites that he's writing in his handwriting, and like his thoughts behind it. Like, it's interesting to hear what other people report in terms of like their interactions with him. And even though they might be interpreting it one way, I think you can just take at face value like what that person actually physically did in a behavior, and then when you put behind an like intention with it, like make sure that you're still kind of not, it's not attributable, like rule out things like this when you're making those assumptions. Like maybe he's not a narcissist, maybe he just like has autism. So, um, okay, sorry. I just want to go over this one other thing, and I was planning on doing a whole separate section, and maybe I should just plan on doing that. But I do want to say that a lot of times, I'll just say this now, and I think I'll go into it in a separate video because I think it's really important and it's good for all of us to like, I guess, review and rehash and like just consider what these labels are on people in terms of like legal mental health standards and like how we should be using them and interpreting them. And I think it's really important to note that people that have Asperger's and autism or people that are on the autism spectrum disorder are like known for being wrongly accused of crimes and of having their actions and behaviors wrongly misinterpreted due to people thinking that they're a narcissist or that they're being a weirdo and creepy and maybe like have dead eyes. Oh, the other thing that I was going to say that's weird too with the development coordination disorder, and this might be like stretching it a little bit, but like I mentioned with my friend's niece, she physically had some like kind of, you could tell she wasn't physically completely like normal. There isn't anything abnormal that I can like like pick out with her. Like, you know, sometimes like fetal alcohol syndrome, you used to be able to tell like certain physical characteristics. I don't think you could do that, but you could tell that she just was like, you know, maybe developed a little bit differently in her face. And I think a lot of people are talking about like how Brian's like body is so weird and his face is so creepy and his eyes are so dead. And I do think that maybe that could be a partial explanation for why people are getting those and like feeling that way from him if he actually is experiencing a similar, you know, thing that my friend's niece did. And I don't know if anyone else knows of uh, information or background on developmental coordination disorder and any experience with how that showed up throughout the development of someone and um, like different types of displays of behaviors and like maybe even physical attributes, like post it below, that'd be cool. Or like, I don't know, Twitter me or something, or X me. I'm ACAB True Crime on there. Same with Instagram and TikTok, but I don't really do those very much. So, any hoozles, let's go right along into this thing that the People article was talking about. Okay. It says I have on. Okay, so this is called a kite, and I can't remember why we called them kites. I think it was like an actual acronym for something like kite was, but I can't remember what it was. But anyways, maybe it even wasn't, and it's still just it looks exactly like this. It has two. There's a top part and then there's a bottom part, and I think we have another example of like a full one. Oh, here's an example of a full one. Yeah. So here's the top, here's the bottom. There's the, you know, resident part and then there's the staff part. So we'll get to that one later. This one is 7:30 and this one is what 7:30. Damn it, where's the good one go? Here we go. No. Okay, I think I have all four of these complaints, so that's good. Oh, sorry. Where are all of you? Okay, one, two. Did not receive. Okay, that was the food item tray. Okay, let's start with the food, and then we'll get into the sexual harassment complaints because I think that that is very noteworthy. Here's an example of this. But where was the other one? I thought there was like another. Oh, yeah, I have the other one. Okay, this one says, like I said, it's a kite. They put down their grievance. And then they obviously have other parts like, did you bring this up with anyone yet? Like, is this really worth dragging a kite to me? Like, do I actually have to follow up with you about this, or am I just going to write you back and be like, talk to the CO on your unit, you know? So, anyways, he says the problem is I did not receive my lunch on 7/30/2025, despite inquiring. I, I think that says inquiring, despite inquiring. Like, this is like a very like robotic kind of autism type way to interact with someone. You know, he's kind of like, I inquired, like, you know, and like maybe if he is really smart using these kind of words that he doesn't realize, maybe that will kind of push other people away. Okay, although I understand that the tier before hectic, B of it was never communicated to me that I would be unable to receive a new bag. The okay. I did not receive my lunch despite inquiring. Although I understand that the what is this? That the tier became that's what it says. The tier okay. Although I okay, good for him. This is sweet. Although I understand that the tier became hectic, he is acknowledging that he's not just thinking about himself. He actually put himself in this guy's shoes and he was like, look, I understand it's not all about me right now. The tier I saw it got hectic for you. So I understand that. And he says, I was never communicating. Oh, it was never communicated to me that I would be unable to receive a new bag. Okay. What he means by big is like big lunch. So like when people, probably because he's vegan or if he has like a special diet, they will feed them, but it's not going to be the same shit that everyone else is eating. So like they'll all be getting canteen food or like, you know, like actual meals that are hot and that are kind of just basically cafeteria food. Like I actually think the food in prison is pretty good. But I also like shitty food, so. And if you are like, let's say at a meeting, like an AA meeting over like the dining room time, or if you were you had like lots of privileges and you weren't able to go to the cafeteria today or the canteen today, and so you need to receive a big lunch, or everyone's on lockdown and no one can go to the like dining room, and so you all receive a big lunch. And like because he's vegan, I'm sure that so many of the things on the menu, the regular menu, he can't eat. So he probably just gets a big lunch every day that just has the shit that he can eat being vegan. Like what would that even be? Like I don't even know what vegan people can eat. Like can you eat bread? Isn't there like eggs and bread or something? I don't fucking know. Vegan is weird. But respect to all who do it, and obviously he felt much better doing it. So um okay, so what he says here, he says, it was never communicated to me that I would be unable to receive a new bag, which I feel like he says new bag lunch, um, because I did not receive my lunch, despite inquiring. Although I understand that year got hectic, it was never communicated to me that I would be unable to receive a new bag, even though it was hectic. And he asked, no one told him no. That's what he said. So the next shift was not aware of this either. So he's like, and this wasn't even communicated to the next shift. So, and like the other thing is people in prison, like surprise, surprise, don't believe offenders for anything. So if offender comes up and is like, yo, like I didn't get my big lunch today, and then the COs are probably like, yeah, right. Okay, well, if that's true, they would have like left it in the logbook. So I know you're lying to me. You're just trying to put one over. They never trust them. And I know that there's a reason for it, but also it's just like not everyone fucking lies, you know? And like not everyone in prison lies either. Like, and not everyone in prison lies all the time. Like, so anyways, he's like, I know that the next shift wasn't, he probably was like, he said, I wish to address this as I have a right to this meal. Thank you. So he's just, I mean, that's good to say. I mean, should be receiving. I mean, he is in our like legal prison system. We put him there. Like, we need to not like we need to feed people if they're in prison. Like, we don't get to starve people. This is not a concentration camp. And even though people might be like, "Oh my God, three meals a day," like it's like, yeah, but obviously it's not like a super great 3 meals a day. He's receiving big lunches of whatever the hell vegan food is, which is like probably a grape or something. And it is his right. And like that means, and I'm sure he put that on there logically because it makes sense to like make it be known or brought to their attention that this could become this should be put at a higher on the importance list because this is actually a legal expectation and standard that needs to be met. And I don't think he's being rude here at all. He said, I have tried to solve this problem informally by speaking with staff several times. Okay, so so this sounds like it's happening multiple times. He says, okay, so we don't know. We don't know if this is the first time this has ever happened to him, but it would make sense too. Like for me, I'd be like, if that was the first time it ever happened to me, I'd be like, whatever it happens, I'm not going to suspect anyone. I maybe wouldn't make it as big of a deal, or I wouldn't write about it the way that he wrote it in here. But he doesn't like think socially the way that other people do, and he doesn't really understand like what maybe this could be interpreted as because he doesn't interpret it that way. So I think it's I wouldn't necessarily do this, but it's good. He has tried to bring it up several times. And if this has happened several times, this note is worthy of this note. Like maybe one time, oops, but like if this has happened several times, that means that they're actually probably purposely forgetting his meals, or like purposely choosing to not. I mean, maybe it's a hassle for them to go get a big lunch, and like CO sucks. So, okay, I suggest the following solution for the problem. In the future, okay, this will be great to read. Oh, look at his cute little signature. I should say cute little signature, but that's a pretty ridiculous signature. That looks like a 2-year-old wrote it. And 2-year-olds are funny, so that's why I said that. But the cute part. I don't think Bryan Kohberger is cute, everyone. Okay. Um, okay. I suggest the following solution for the problem. In the future, I wish to receive my lunch without exception. This could be accomplished by sending for the replacement as rapidly as possible. Okay, I love that suggestion. I mean, that's legit. That's a good suggestion. Um, it seems respectful. It's definitely a way more respectful kite than most people receive in prison. I will tell you that. I've received some crazy effing kites. I wonder if no, I wonder if I have an example of one. I might. I'll check. It would be redacted, but this is an example of one too. So, and we can actually see it. So. And I think that he's doing like it makes sense. He's like, send for a replacement as rapidly as possible. Yeah, he worded that weird, but like again, he has autism. People with autism like do not necessarily like think and word things the same way that everyone else does. And I think this was good for him. I'm glad that he is being taking the initiative in here. Like, if people are like scamming him out of his lunch, yeah, he should fucking say something. And if it is a problem that they like forget by the end of the shift, yeah, just do it right then when he's asking. You know what I mean? Like, obviously he's asking right then and they don't do it. So, I mean, they must have to go and grab the big lunch from somewhere. And that's why he was probably like, I know I got busy, but no one was told this. And we also know from the criteria that we just read about OCD and ACD, like he probably has a pretty rigid routine that he follows, and I'm sure, especially in prison, he uses like dining room times or like meal times as part of that structure and routine that he kind of will religiously follow. So. So yeah, that's that. That's one example. Okay. So that's what the whatchamacallit talked about. That's what people talked about here. So, so like we said, five. So we've now looked at one. He's claiming he had been sexually harassed and requesting transfer to a new cell block. So we have that. We'll see. Um, okay, what? What's this one? Brian, I don't. Okay, let's see what this one is. Oh, all right. Let's read this one. So this is the next one that talks about the um threats that he's been receiving. And he filed a sexual harassment complaint, which is actually a huge deal in prison. There's this program called PRIA. I wonder, I'll look it up because there was a major issue with prison rape back in like I think it was like George W. actually started PRIA, which is good because people should have dignity even if they're in prison. Um, so yep, 2003. It is the Prison Rape Elimination Act, and it is PRIA. On September 4th, 2003, George W. Bush signed into law the PREA Act. The goal of PREA is to eradicate prisoner rape in all instances or in all types of correctional facilities in this country. As a result of PREA, the Bureau of Justice Assistance established the Protecting Inmates Safeguarding Communities program in fiscal year 2004. Funding was made available to states to support efforts to prevent and eliminate prisoner rape between inmates in states and local prisons, jails, and police lockup facilities, and to safeguard the communities in which inmates return. The two main goals of the Protecting Inmates and Safeguarding Communities program are to assist states and local jurisdictions in ensuring that budget cuts don't compromise efforts to protect inmates and to safeguard communities upon the inmates' reentry. And in fiscal year 2011, the Bureau of Justice Assistance established the PREA demonstration project to establish zero-tolerant cultures for the sexual assault program. The PREA program provides funding to state and local governments and federally recognized tribes for demonstration projects within confinement settings, including adult prisons and jails, juvenile facilities, community correction facilities, law enforcement lockups, and other temporary holding facilities and tribal detention facilities. So basically, what they all have to do is they like have to all go through this PREA training like before they go to prison or jail or wherever they are. And if it is reported, it needs to be taken completely seriously, and it can be audited. And so so like for all audits must initiate auditors must initiate audits via emails. Okay, wait, pre-audit questionnaire. What's an audit? Auditor handbook. Okay. Okay. Complete the final report template and post audit report form received in step one and submit both to PREA compliance. We will confirm receipt within 5 business days. Annual guide compliance determinations. So they'll get more money if they can show that they're making progress in these areas and about taking reports. And so this is the national standards to prevent, detect, and respond to to PREA, to GRAPE, and that they won't receive certain funding if they don't match that, which is kind of not a great initiative. Like, don't take away funding from shitty jails that like aren't following up on like rape accusations. Um, so basically, what PREA is like anyone that reports a sexual assault in prison, they need to take it absolutely seriously. It goes through this whole report process and it has to be followed up on and like something has to be done about it. So the fact that he signed this, like, it isn't just like a, oh, whatever. It's like legally, it sounds like, they're not meeting the standards, but let's double check. Oh, wait, hold on. Just detention, international. So here's an example. What you need to know. Purpose of the act is to provide for the analysis of the incidents and effects of prison rape in federal state. So basically, like just keeping track of it and seeing how big of a problem it is, I guess, which doesn't really like, and then they'll get more funding for helping them, whatever. Anyways, sexual harassment complaint is definitely a Priya thing. Well, fuck, maybe it's not. Maybe he's because he didn't actually report rape. I'll have to look into that. I'm write that down. So I don't want to like look into it too closely now, but they should be definitely taking it seriously. Um, because ain't nobody deserved that, even if they're a violent offender. Look up sexual harassment in terms of Priya reporting. All right, rolling with the homies. Okay, how long has it been on the live? Like, I feel like it's been a while. Oh, man, you're back. Vegans are kind of weirdos. Like, no shade. Holy shit, it's been 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's crazy. How was uh the viewing for your cousin's husband, Landon? Sorry, I just like started ignoring the live chat because I was like, well, I don't want to keep looking at it because I know no one's gonna comment, and that'll make me feel bad. But but yeah, vegans are weirdos, but aren't we all? Yeah, so yeah, it's been 2 hours. I feel like that's way too long. I haven't even gotten anywhere close to what the fuck I was even gonna go over. This is ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. Why? Well, I guess it's important, but maybe I should change the name of the live because I do go over. Maybe I should just be like prison psychologist reviews Bryan Kohberger's mental health diagnoses and complaints in prison or something. Part one. And then I can do like because he's 5 complaints, so any hoozles. Here's the next one. Okay, this one is Bryan Kohberger accused another inmate of saying the only ass we'll be eating is Kohberger. Oh, poor Brian. That sucks. Thanks, Landon. I appreciate you. I like seriously do. Um, yeah, how was your week? I had like not that great of a week. I like had to do some work up at my cabin and like it was kind of stressful and I got home and then I realized I'm like really like anyway, some annoying things happened. Like I ran out of gas and then other stuff too, but Brian loves grape. Perfect. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know how much Brian does love grape, but um I don't know if anyone really loves grapes, but yeah. And if they do, like, no kink shaming, but it should be consensual, which kind of like voids grape in general, you know? All right, so let's see what they say. Oh, nice. How did rebuilding your truck engine go? Oh my gosh, my dad just like kind of taught me a little bit more about engines like up at our cabin. He has like a little tractor that he has and um he's kind of crazy with it and like something broke off of it and he had to like weld something or other and he was like and this is what does this and that's where that goes and I was like oh cool. So I know like about cars breaking down but like I don't know exactly about engines, you know what I mean? Okay, but it says need to know Bryan Kohberger submitted a handwritten note begging prison officials. Here, they're so dramatic, begging prison officials to transfer him out of the J block at the Idaho Maximum Security Institute. It is IMSI, Idaho Maximum Security Institute. So there must only be one. There must only be one IMSI, and he must be on the J block of it. Nice, congrats, halfway done. Well, so yeah, you're a glass half full kind of guy, right? Half done, yeah. Um, versus half to go. You still have a half more to go. Um, narrative matters. So 5 days later, he handed in a note of concern to a guard in which he said he was being sexually harassed by another inmate who were making threats, such as telling him all but F you. That's ridiculous. Oh my God, dude. Like, offenders are crazy. Here's the thing. Like, I don't think Brian's like exposed right now to like any other people like in the showers. He's probably not alone with other people. And there would be a way to like jump him in prison right now, but it would have to be like really, really focused. I mean, if he's in a maximum security institute, that means that like they're doing all controlled movements. So you can't just be like, yo, can I have a pass? Or no, like you're not gonna be like, yo, can I go to meet with my social worker by? It's like, no, you need to like have a note from your social worker saying, I have been requested to go to the social worker, and then you need to carry that pass with you throughout the entire prison, just in case anyone stops you to make sure they know that you have a place that you are going to, and you're not just like, lurking around. And then all of the controlled movements will happen. It's not like they'll be like, all right, everybody, like dining room time. Like they'll be like, they'll release people by different like rows and like tiers and like, you know, blocks. So like they'll be like probably top tier of gel block J can go to the dining room. And then that's just like a group of probably like, probably what, like 60 people that are now being watched in a controlled movement where there are like correctional officers at the front, correctional officers down the middle, and correctional officers at the end where they are all watching the movement of these like this group of people. And so it would have to be like at that time when everyone's watching, and they also have like I mean, they do get like community time, like in the like units, like they have their general area, but like they can definitely make sure that they're like nearby or in the view like site. Like if you hang out alone in your cell and then like invite friends in or something, like you're kind of maybe asking to be jumped. Like I don't know, like that would be a good place to jump someone. Like if you're in the back playing games and you guys get in a fight about some fucking, like spades game or something, then people might jump you. But like if you're not really engaging with other people and if you're like really scared and you are also in the seg unit, which it sounds like he is, then you're not going to have really any interaction with people. So like other offenders, that is. Um, and so to me, what's probably happening, because what I have read and what I've interpreted, and I can't remember exactly where, but I think it'll come up, that he is right now in protective custody, or he is in a protective custody like setting, I think. And like that is someone who would be like for example, in Minnesota, we don't have protective custody. That was the word that I was looking for. And if someone needs protective custody, which some people do, because some people are very vulnerable, for example, people that have like severe mental illnesses, like, maybe autism or like, schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or something, they need a little bit more support. And also, because they have a clinical mental disorder, they are way more vulnerable in prison to the general population because they don't function and think and behave in the same way that everyone else in prison does, or everyone else, period, in the world. So they don't really, it makes them, I mean, I always worried about my guys that were in that SPI. Like, there's also, like, we had a unit for SPI, which is like serious and persistent mental illness. So, and then we kind of had like a half protective custody unit, even though we weren't supposed to, but it was like kind of in a way segregation. But besides getting in either of those areas, you had to be in Gen Pop. And if you were afraid and you needed some type of protective custody, like they're talking about with prison here or with Brian here, they would put someone in segregation because, I mean, segregation sucks. Like, it's not the same as having your own prison cell and on a regular unit, like you don't have those same privileges in the seg unit. Like, seg unit is way different than any of the other units. And it's the worst unit because you're in SEG. It's usually a punishment. It's like loss of privileges or sending to SEG. And that's unfortunate for him because it sounds like they're using the SEG unit for purposes that aren't for taking away privileges or that aren't because of like behavioral issues like he's had. So that's like not really great for him. Like he will probably only get out and be able to stretch his leg for like an hour a day. He's probably only allowed like to shower like maybe once a day too. And the lights never get turned off and like no one can actually like talk to you face to face. The only way that you can actually like even as staff like you can't communicate with them except through a meal slot. Like in order for them to get served meals, they have a little like hole like right here on the door, and so then they'll pull that down, and then they'll slide in the food tray, and like that's how they get them their food and stuff without actually having to be one on one with them like physically. Like there's always a locked door between them, and that's the same for psychologists. And even though you're wanting to have a secure one-on-one like interaction with this person for matter of assessment or to provide support or whatever, like you do not have the opportunity. You have to talk to them through this little slot. You have to use the food slot in order to have a conversation with him. And everyone in prison fucking listens super hard. All those guys know what the fuck's going on, and they for sure are all listening to any interactions that he's having with the correctional staff on that unit, for sure. So, and the other thing too is it's like rowdy as fuck in SAG. I don't even think they turn off the lights. They don't let you have anything in there. I think they maybe let you have like, a book and a pencil maybe. Um, but they don't turn off the lights. I mean, it seriously can make someone go insane, and that's a problem with it. And like people talk about that a lot, like a lot. It's not, it doesn't really help anything. It, I think, usually just like exacerbates um like situations. Yeah, exactly. Fun times, Lennon. I know, like it totally sucks. And I know that some guys are super crazy and rowdy and like need seg, but like also again, like I do feel like putting them in those conditions like never actually like help the situation. And I think it actually makes matters like worse. So I just think that the way that they do shit in prison is completely backwards like all the fucking time. And it's just ridiculous. Like me and prison butted heads hardcore. But which is why I'm no longer there. And anyways, part of SEG too is like these guys, like I said, are rowdy. I mean, it is so loud. Like you'll go into like you'll be in one unit and then you'll like, oh fuck, am I still having sound? Um, but they'll go into like you'll go into one and like it'll be downtime. It'll even be like social hour where they're like out having like, whatever time. And people will be on the phone, people will be playing games, like it's kind of loud and like a little bit like, you can tell there's a little bit more energy. And then maybe you'll go to like another unit that's like already like on like doors closed for the night and they like are super quiet. There's nothing going on, everything's quiet, and then you go into SAG and it's like all hell broke loose and there's just constant screaming, pounding, like everyone's trying to like holler at you or like yell at you or like, people that are probably having psychotic breakdowns are also in there like and like a lot of like gang guys are in there too, so they all know what's going on in here. So they'll see like if he is having a mental health person come out and respond to him, like they'll notice like, oh, that psych doctor keeps coming up to talk to him every day. Like, I wonder what he's getting from her, Thank you, Landon. I didn't even need to ask. I was like, I pressed my thing and then I was like, oh shit. But then I looked like I did. So I was like, should I ask Landon? I was like, he'll just tell me. Because I have like a little bit of delay on here. So but yeah, like, and then they also like will yell at one another within SEG. So that's why it's like always loud. They're always yelling at each other, and like they will yell insets, like in like shit at one another. They'll try to throw shit at each other, even like through like the little door slots. Like, I mean, they don't really have shit, but they'll like, take out their tray or whatever, or they'll like throw like they'll put like pee in like a milk carton and like throw it in the face of like a correctional officer that comes up or psych doctors or whatever. And like I from the sounds of it, what's happening to Brian here is he's not like directly being threatened in terms of he's walking next to someone and there's like 10 dudes and like someone's like, I'm gonna like butt fuck you. And like or someone's not like the only asset I'll be eating is covert. Like that just sounds ridiculous. And like people in prison are pretty ridiculous. Like especially the ones that get to SAG. It's just like what is going on in there? Like you know what I mean? I feel like that's why a lot of people have mental health issues, like developmental like issues, like obviously behavioral problems, like that go to prison. And it's like the way to deal with them is to not just like dehumanize them even more. Like you know what I mean? It's like they've never really had support before. And this is like if this is the only way for them to like figure out how to act, like it's just like whoa, like I mean they it's just sad, you know. I mean I know that there are people in prison that are unreachable. Like I don't expect everyone in prison to just like you know be able to magically become like nonviolent and like perfectly behaving, but like also the way that we deal with it now isn't the way that it needs to be dealt with. Like it can be done in like a dignified way and like actually like not dehumanizing people at the time. And like so anyways, what it sounds like is happening to him is he's like with a bunch of like pretty cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs people like up in SAG, whether that they might be like, you know, having mental breakdowns or just majorly acting out or just like a little like, you know, immature and childish or like whatever disruptive. And they are yelling at him through the pipes. So they I mean he is a high profile um, you know, offender, and I'm sure it's exciting for everyone in the prison that he just got there. And people obviously have been watching him on TV, like as we hear in the reports that he even read some of it. And I mean, it's like, I think that it makes sense that they're yelling at him and like giving him a hard time. But at this point, I know he's scared, and I know it would be scary as fuck to hear that shit. But I do feel people are just like mentally fucking with him right now. But also because of who Brian is and like how he has, you know, these disorders, he probably wouldn't be able to interpret that. Like, I mean, of course, no one that's like inside that's scared like shitless is gonna like interpret it maybe in the best way possible. But he might not even have the idea of like, oh, they're doing this to everyone. Like, this isn't just focused at me. Like, that's what that guy is saying to literally everyone in here. I mean, no one should be saying that to him, but also like I feel bad for him because I think he's like obviously like really disturbed in there and SEG is not a good place to be. But I do think that these, you know, threats that are being reported aren't necessarily completely true, realistic, like and you know, I don't know. I like even am cautious to say that because I would never want to say that and then actually have someone get, you know, raped. So but I don't mind Cocoa Puffs, you know, Landon, but I prefer a Captain Crunch, to be honest. I'm not like a chocolate lover. I do love chocolate, but like I love fudge and I love like M&Ms and Reese's, but I don't like love chocolate flavored things. Like I don't like a chocolate cake and I don't like chocolate milk, you know, shit like that. And Cocoa Puffs kind of reminds me of that. But so yeah, anyways, that's just a little background of what I know of Seg and probably the conditions that he's in right now. But I do feel like he probably should get a transfer, and I'm sure CEOs watching this would be like, no, yeah, shit, eh. But it's like they're all assholes in there. So, but it sounds like he didn't get it. It says he has already oh my God, peanut M&Ms are the bomb, Lennon. I have an empty bag over there on the ground that I just finished yesterday of like the big one of the peanut M&Ms, and I always get those. But my mom this weekend up at the cabin, she is a chocolate lover, but to more stuff than what I just listed. But she brought up just the regular M&Ms, and I was like, I was like kind of disappointed. But then I had some of them, and I was like, these are really good. I forgot how good these are. So yeah, but it says Kohberger is having time. Oh wait. Did not receive. Oh wait, it's a Kohberger who accused an inmate. He didn't get a transfer, even though he asked for one. Okay, wait, so oh, interesting. So I guess there's the first note being like he's like, please let me get transferred to J Block because it sounds like he's in oh no, he wants to be transferred out of J Block. So he's like, please get me on a J Block. 5 days later, he's like, yo, they're like sexually threatening me. And then he was denied both times about that. What? This is so weird. Why did I just get balloons? Balloons just showed up for some reason. Weird. Oh my God, yeah. We're soul sister brothers, Landon. What's with these? Oh, I just was seeing that on the thing. But what is the balloons? That is weird. Um, anyways, it says on July 30th, the convicted murderer submitted a handwritten note requesting that's okay to be placed in a different facility just after just one night in the J Block at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution in Boise. I want to like, I wonder if J Block is the SEG unit. Not, but I think the SEG unit usually is called SEG. Not engaging in any of the recent flooding, striking, as well as being subject to minute by minute verbal threats, harassment, and on that and other bases, Unit 2 of J Block is an environment that I wish to transfer from. Oh, oh, poor Brian. Oh my God. I just imagine working with him, and I just would like, poor guy. Um, even if he did it, poor guy. But I will disclose, I have, it has not been proven to me that he did this, and especially more and more as information comes out about him and about the incident, it makes me even more confident in my assessment of that. Um, yeah, and it says just 5 days later. Oh wait, flooding refers. Oh no, this yeah, they see like I was just saying, they were saying flooding. He said so, not engaging in any of the recent flooding, striking. So he's saying not engaging in this, which is flooding is inmates intentionally causing water to overflow in their cells as a form of disruption, which sounds like something a bunch of rowdy fuckers would do on a badass unit, like on SEG or on like the jobless like section, you know. And he obviously doesn't have a job right now, and he might be actually in productive custody. So he's probably in a very rowdy unit or for sure in SEG, and I guess they are flooding their cells, which sounds typical. And like I explained, it can be even worse, where they'll like stomp on a like poop bag and let it explode all over you, or like spit at you. You know, and none of that has actually been done to me because I'm likable. No, I'm just kidding. Um, because I'm not a CO officer. And I'm not saying that it would never happen to me because it has happened. But I do feel like, you know, yeah, if there's like an uprising or like a riot at the prison, to be honest, I did feel confident when I worked at prison in Minnesota that if there was a riot that happened, I felt that if I was nearby the guys that I worked with that were like on my caseload, I feel like they would have my back. Like they would protect me. They'd be like, yo, no, ACAB's cool. You know, so um oh my God, county next to me, they ripped the sinks and toilets off the wall. Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, have fun dealing with our sewage. But um they can get, but I wonder why. I wonder why they're doing that. You know, I mean, to me, that is someone like screaming for something. Um, because most like offenders don't act like that, you know what I mean? So, um, he said just 5 days later, on August 4th, Kohberger complained of sexual harassment and a concern note to a prison guard after an inmate allegedly told him, "I'll butt fuck you." Here's another picture of him and his maybe weird face. I don't know. Kohberger's also accused another inmate of saying the only ass we'll be eating is Kohberger's. Okay, like, thank you is what Kohberger should say. Um, just kidding. People obtained the incident notification report filed out by the guard who received the note, which also included the name of the guard Kohberger claimed had witnessed the alleged threats. Huh. The guard submitted an information report 3 days later saying that while he recalls vulgar language being used and directed towards Kohberger, he was not able to discern which inmate said what at the time. That's bullshit. That's 3 days later, he wrote that report. Yeah, probably couldn't 3 days later. Says Coburg was transferred to the J Block on July 29th. J Block is a unit that can house up to 128 individuals. Oh my God, isn't that crazy? I estimated that top tier was 60 probably, and that sounds like it probably is. J Block top tier is one, half-half. So I think I have, it sounds pretty similar to the like facility that I worked at, or at these several facilities I worked at. And it includes a mix. Oh my God. Okay, this is interesting. It includes a mix of people of general population, protective custody, and death row inmates. What? Whoa. I have not worked in a prison that has death row inmates, but I can only guess. So, okay, this is the segregation unit. Yep. This is 100% SEG. J Block is their SEG because it would be general population who are in SEG. It would be people that are in need of protective custody right now, which is Bryan, even though it's just SEG. And then death row inmates, which this is their death row. And SEG is a lot like death row. You're only like allowed 1 hour a day, like outside of your cell and blah blah blah. So he was. Um, this is actually something that I have to talk about. It came from the ISP documents that I covered, that I reviewed, that I really want to talk about. And also these. Um, I thought were really good evidence to support some of the things that I'm saying right now. But since it's coming up on like 3 freaking hours, like I feel like I should just be like, bye, and then come on tomorrow and just finish this up. Okay. Individuals like Kohberger who are in long-term restrictive housing, exactly like I just said, have single person cells. Nice. Okay, like I fucking just said, are transported in restraints. Okay, I didn't mention that part, but yes, every single person that is in SEG, if they leave their cell, which I never saw people up in SEG leave their cell. There was one time I saw a guy leave SEG, and that was to talk to me in a like side room off of the unit, and he was chained. He had a restraint, like a chain around his his hips, his whatever, and then he had foot restraints and hand restraints, and he like could hardly walk. They like shuffle. So um yeah, so that sounds like the same here. And receive 1 hour of outdoor recreation daily. See, exactly like I said. And they are also, oh no, they are also permitted to shower only every other day. That's what I just said earlier. I was like, I think they can shower every day because I was thinking of Cobra and I was like, wow, how does he deal with that? Then I was like, you know what? It might even be every other day because people in SAG have it really bad. But it sounds like, yeah, every other day. And that's for like a lot of people on that unit. So I wonder how he's handling that. Probably not very well. Right. I'm kind of interested in that, but I'll find that later. All right. Hold up. Kohberger asked in his note if he could be transferred to the B block, which, like J block, includes single-person cells and only allows non-contact visits. Ooh, you know what I bet happened? Because this is what happened. Oh, thanks, Landon. That's sweet. I could probably talk all night long too. Don't tempt me. I know. I just like kind of am afraid of like. I mean, when I see any video that's like over an hour, I'm like, hell no, I'm not gonna listen to that, unless I'm really, really interested. Um, but I will watch a live for longer. You know what I mean? Like, I could sit on a live for multiple hours, but I will not sit on a replay live for hours, or probably not watch a video that's like multiple hours either. So I try to keep that in mind when I like am making this content. But also, I just need to like be better about everything, but also specifically breaking up my videos into like shorter segments and videos so I can like release those that people can maybe, or like a short TikTok, like just on, maybe an overview of Bryan and OCD or blah, 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 you know what I mean? But yeah, 3 hours I feel like is definitely like a long time to be on a live. Um, but I feel like I could do it. Okay, maybe I'll just start working up to some longer lives. Because I have so much to share, to be honest, and so much to talk about. Obviously, every time I get on here, I'm like, I didn't get anything talked about that I wanted to. Because there's also like other things that I want to talk about on here, Well, for one, I really, really want to go over the body cam video that was released from the Idaho for like first responders that showed up to the scene of the red rooms, and then um, I wrote down like a handful of things that I thought were noticeable about that video. And then maybe I'll make a maybe right now if I get off, I'll make a TikTok about one of them. I don't want to like blame, but it was just like something interesting I noticed that maybe not a lot of other people might notice. So I want to share that, but also like want to have people follow me please. Um but yeah, and then I want to discuss the new well, like I said, I want to go over all of these ISP documents. Right now, I only have 150 to review, and there's still like 400 other ones I need to review. And then I still need to finish up that Pacific Northwest weird shit that's happening with all the explosions. And I just saw another crime that fits into that same, mold of things that like those lives are about, like just yesterday or 2 days ago, like another big explosion, in like a warehouse again. So it's like just so weird. And then also, um, there's just weird. There's been other weird things happening. Okay, and then also there was an update to. I wanted to talk about a update with the judge red rumming or getting red rummed by the sheriff in Kentucky that is ongoing right now. What's his name? Is like I forget the names. It's Judge. It might be Miller. I don't know if that's like correct, but it's where the judge is like in his chambers, and then this sheriff comes in and just like point blank, but like 5 times, and dude's like the judge is like crawling under his desk, being like, no, no. So I had some theories, and I got kind of a lot of views on the last video that I published on that one, and on that I think it was just like a video that I published. It wasn't actually a live that I talked about it, but that goes over some of the stuff that I was thinking could be part of partially involved in that case, and now some new information that came out and over the last couple of days that I really want to discuss, and it's kind of goes along with what my kind of in what what's the future telling what the fuck is it called? Um Proposal of what was maybe happening, I guess. Um my perspective or ideas, my theory, hypotheses is maybe probably what I'm saying. And then, so I want to talk about that. And then there was also another update that I thought went along really well with that same kind of topic and also goes along with some of the shit that I'm covering just in terms of like corruption and stuff with the Pacific Northwest instance was an update to the another quadruple red rum that took place in, I want to say Indiana or Ohio or somewhere in that area, and it was, or maybe it was Pennsylvania. Anyway, somewhere in that area, and it was that guy who supposedly was arrested for red rumming those 4 people, and then one of their babies, or both of the, like the couple had a baby, and then the baby was found somewhere else and was still alive. And then information came out that the guy that they arrested for it was in the jail there, and that one of the sisters or relatives of the victims that were red rummed was dating this guy in jail, and she was also a correctional officer. And a bunch of stuff came out in the last day or two that I thought was super, super interesting, and I don't think a lot of people are necessarily paying attention to it right now just because of all of the other crazy stuff that's going on with, like I feel like a lot of Kohberger stuff is going on right now. But yeah, I want to go over that because I think it's super interesting as well. And then also, that may be it. But all those things I want to talk about. So it's a lot. And as we can tell, I'm like kind of chatty Cathy tonight, and I like haven't even gone through like all of these, prison threatening stuff. But, that was like going to be a third of my video. I thought like I'd be like, I'll go over the prison threats, and then I'll go over the documents from the newly unsealed Idaho documents. And then I was like, if I have time, I'll do the body cam review or commentary, but figured I'd probably do that separate. Anyways, none of you guys care about this. I don't know why I'm bringing talking about it right now. So my apologies. But I feel like the fact that I only got maybe, halfway through what I was planning on talking about in the beginning, third or half of my video is okay. Um, yeah, there is a lot of crazy stuff going on, Landon, including, just kidding. Or am I? But we're all a little crazy, aren't we? Um, yeah, yeah. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so I'll just finish reading. Oh God, how long? Oh, oh, perfect. I'm just gonna finish this, and then I'm gonna sign off tonight, I think. And and if I feel inspired later, maybe I'll come on and do the review of the body cam video. And if not, I will definitely plan on coming live tomorrow morning. And it will actually be the morning. I know I tried to maybe do that today and I failed, but I will tomorrow. I am absolutely locked in for it. And I'm going to say that the live will begin at the latest noon, but I'm going to say I'm going to aim for 11:30. And yeah, so let's just wrap this up. And again, special thanks and shout out to Landon, number one, Stunna. And I appreciate you being here and everyone else that's here continuously. I super appreciate all of you. And please like the video and share the content if you think it's worthy of sharing. Okay, and let's finish this. So it says, how do I get this to go away? Like, go away. All right, whatever. Um, Kohberger asked in his note if he could be transferred to the B block, which, like J block, includes single-person cells and only allows non-contact visits. So what I was going to say is what happened in my prison where I worked was they had to transition a couple of the units into COVID units. And that was like where they had to change double cells to single cells because they couldn't expose people to each other that had COVID. And because it was a kind of as they made everyone segregate in the world with COVID, they had to do the same with prisoners because actually prison is one of the super big community hotspots. It's like a huge health, like community health risk, and it's like where one of the biggest spreaders, and like they're super vulnerable in there to like different viruses, which is just kind of crazy because if you think about it, they could be locked away from everything, but because we have to have staff in there like coming in and out from the community, like we give it to them and then they keep giving it back to staff, and it's like it's actually not even good to be in a community with a prison like due to that reason. So, anyways, it sounds like they turned this B block into the COVID unit block, and that's my guess, because only allows non-contact visits would be matching with COVID, and single cell stuff. So, and then also like not taking away their privileges necessarily. Like, with SEG, you have lots of privileges. Well, you can get lots of privileges and then you can get SEG, but you have lots of privileges while you have SEG, obviously. But if you are in protective custody or if you have COVID and you're needing to quarantine, you shouldn't really be punished for that. Like, it's just a need that anyone could have. It's not because you did something wrong. So they kind of have to give the write the policies for those units and I guess like whatever movements and stuff like they have to put that into consideration, which is why it's unfair right now that he is in the current J unit with death row people, which means he's with um that means he's with fucking what's his face, the other guy, Lori Daybell and Chad Daybell. I think he's on death row in Idaho. But I wonder if he is in SAG or protective custody, it would be the same thing. It sounds like J Block is the same. It's all that. It's people from general population that are on SAG. It's death row people, and it's protective custody people. That's what J Block does. And then it sounds like the M Block would be, or no, the B Block would be a lot more chill because you have half the amount of people there, and they're not rowdy because they're probably there because they have COVID, or they're there because they have some other vulnerability. Like they probably after all the like they probably transitioned the unit like from like half COVID to like as COVID slowed down, and this is just a guess, but I bet they like switched the unit to be like, okay, half COVID, and then the other half is people that need protective custody because protective custody people shouldn't be punished for needing protective custody. Like it's not Kohberger's fault that his case got blown up everywhere in the media and like everyone just like really focused on him and his story, like it isn't his fault and he should be treated equally to like the other offenders in there. And it does sound like the B unit would be a little bit more of a fair and dignified, humane way of putting someone in protective custody than putting them on J block. But obviously, they feel like J block is the perfect place for him to be. So he said, in the response to his handwritten note, a prison official says, flooding is a relatively rare occurrence in the J block, and it is generally a fairly calm and quieter tier, which I kind of have a hard time believing. I mean, I guess if they say it, but crazy that just so happens right when Kohberger gets there, it's all of a sudden out of control. Also, people on death row, like maybe they are chill, but to me, that suggests someone with the most like movement needed, like controlled movement needs, and that means a higher level of security. Like it's one and the same. So people on death row are like the worst of the worst, whatever. They have the most controlled movement, which is why they only have 1 hour a day. Blah blah blah. Same with the people that get put on seg. You want them to have lots of privileges, have more controlled movement, but it's not the same. Well, I guess maybe it is the same protective custody because maybe they do need to like move them, but they can move them in groups. If like there can be like 50 people in needs of like protective custody too. So, um, it is very hectic in prison, Landon. That is true, and yeah, it's like crazy making in there, and for people to think that for it would do anything different than just exacerbate everyone's like craziness and hecticness is dumb. Okay. So he is then told to give it some time, which means like the poor guy. Like that sucks. Like I know that they're meaning that things will like settle down in there because it is probably hectic because he's in there. It's exciting. Not usually this big of deal things happen in like prison. So like you can definitely tell when the energies change a little bit. Like when you hear that maybe there was a staff assault at another prison, like in Minnesota, like we'll be like, oh my God, like there's a staff assault at Stillwater, and then they'll put like all the prisons on lockdown. And then everyone gets super rowdy, like, oh my God, did you hear about the staff assault in Stillwater? And it's like the offenders get word of it. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the offenders, like the word travels faster than it does through staff. It's crazy. Um, but yeah, so give it some time. I guess we'll see if they settle down. But also, it's like, why not just move them to the B block? At the end of his more recent complaint about sexual harassment, prison officials said that Kohberger feels safe to remain on tier 2 in J block. So maybe he's on like the more like the less disruptive tier of J block. Maybe that's what they're referring to. But either way, I still think they should put him on B block. I mean, he's obviously a vulnerable person right now, and they the prison staff have no idea about like mental health or like behavioral health needs at all. And it's like just crazy, like the way that they interact with the offenders in there, to be honest. And we're starting to see it here, and like it's just kind of the way it is, and it ain't right. It ain't right, yo. Um, so it says the Idaho Department of Corrections did not respond to a request for comment. Oh, surprise, surprise. They'll only comment on something if it's like, you know, something against the offenders or speaking about how awesome their prison staff is. Okay, so that is the end of that article. And oh, this is I am going to talk about this tomorrow too. Um, offensive comments and the 13 formal complaints. Um, yeah, I have thoughts about all of those as well. So, but also let me just see where what does this look like? SPI phase. I wonder what that means. It says here, I'll share this. Deputy Warden Dietz. Oh, okay. So before, who did he issue it to? Because Deputy Warden, I mean, that's like Is that second from the top or is that the top top? Um, it says involved in initial discussion. Oh. Oh, okay. So the deputy warden who was involved in this initial discussion that he sent, he says C LPI CYOWL. What does that say? Corporal. Dude, I don't know what that is. Involved in initial discussion. Because they will discuss if kites are important enough and like it needs to be a matter like brought up like there's like daily meetings that are had with like the warden and like all the like kind of admin people and like other heads of departments blah 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 and like they kind of have a check-in or maybe it's once a week and then they talk about matters like this or like trying to work together between like psych and correctional staff whatever. So obviously the deputy warden was there during this initial discussion about his first uh like kite about this. That's my assumption. Okay, SPI phase, SPI. Ah, oh my God, you guys, I know what this is. I know what this is. Okay, so what is he? Where is this housing unit? Again, he's still in the J block. Yeah. Okay, 33. All right, so okay, so it was the same in Minnesota, and I worked on this unit because it was the mental health unit and also kind of makeshift protective custody unit as well. And it was called SPI, and it was for people that had serious and persistent like illnesses, I think. And there was like different phases of it. And so like you would kind of like it was for people that had those mental illnesses and were actively trying to um address them and like cope with them and like actively work towards like coping, I guess. And you could go through different phases of the program, and then that would look good like when you're trying to go to a lower level security prison, like when you're getting closer to your release date. And this is just a nice program for some of the more vulnerable people to be a part of, so they're not in the same housing and population as Gen Pop because of the like vulnerabilities. And as we see, Brian does seem to have a vulnerability with his mental health diagnoses. And it sounds like he's in the first phase of joining this program at that prison, so he would be able to stay in that unit. So that's my guess. As I continue the SPI phase one, I think he said phase, is that phase one? SPI phase. Oh, not that, okay, that might be wrong actually. I'll have to figure out what SPI phase means. It's not that because um maybe it's like like orientation. Like I think that they do when they come to prison, obviously like need to go through some initial like orientation stuff so they can sign off stuff and legally say that they went through these things. So maybe SPI is a phase of that initiation. I'll find out. I'll get to the bottom of this. Okay, so he said, I wish to discuss if I may be transferred. So this must have been the first request. No, I don't know. Okay. Um, if I may be transferred to another AC seg setting. Oh, okay. Like I said, seg. An AC seg to me suggests air conditioned seg because there are prisons that don't have air conditioning. It's insane. One of them that I worked at, it was so gross. It was like the maximum security prison at Stillwater, which they're actually closing down this year in Minnesota, probably because of reasons like that. But it didn't have air conditioning, and like those dudes, it was so hot sometimes, and it smelled so fucking bad in the summer, dude. It was crazy. It seems inhumane to have these old fucks, like there's a lot of old dudes in prison to have them in that type of setting without AC is like shitty, like everyone. So that's just my thoughts, but it sounds like that's probably what he's referring to is that an air conditioning seg setting. which would probably be B block, it sounds like, because it sounds like they have AC seg on J block too. So, but it sounds like on B block, it's like way more chill. And it sounds like maybe if my guess is right with this FBI thing, that you're working on your truck with your phone light. We need to get you a better light, Landon. But I do, hey, no hate on that because I definitely use phone lights too. Um, yeah, so I bet that that's what he's talking about there. And it says as wait, such as B block, not engaging in any of the recent flooding striking, as well as being subject to minute by minute verbal threats, harassment on that, and what does it say? Okay, it says subject to minute by minute verbal threats, harassment on that, is that and other bases? Oh, all other bases. Wait, well, being subject to minute by minute verbal threats, harassment on that and other bases. What does that even mean? Um, Unit 2 of J Block is an environment that I wish to transfer from if possible. See, he asked if possible. He's being like pretty damn respectful on this kite. Like I said, you should have seen some of the kites that I got. I mean, I like literally couldn't even like understand some of the words. Like I was like, what is this even in English? But it was all just like, you know, saying some pretty nasty shit to me. Um, Not that I'm like all innocent, I don't know what words mean, but like it was pretty like it was definitely like a different type of talk. Like the guy that I'm talking about specifically, I think he was using like, like maybe like slang from Louisiana prison culture. I don't know. That's where he came from. And I was like, what does this even mean? That's the one I wish I kept because it was like, called me up, shorty, blah, da, da, da. I was like, what? Okay. So I request transfer to B block immediately. I wish to speak with you soon. See, I feel like Bryan knows his rights, you know what I mean? He shouldn't have to be subjected to this. I understand that people in prison have it shitty. Yeah, it can be rowdy, but there's definitely more rowdy places than others, and there's ways to keep people in a safer environment that are more vulnerable. And I think, today, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not trying to be here to like necessarily like, I don't know, lift up Bryan and treat him like he's like, you know, a perfect guy and like everyone should like, you know, care about him and blah 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 blah. But I do think that it's important to make sure that we're looking at the actual situation from all perspectives. And I think it's easier to do that with someone like me who has experience with situations like this and people like the reporters at Daily Mail or like Newsweek or anywhere really, like probably don't have the like up close and personal specific details that talk about this stuff and like also mental health diagnoses in prison and stuff and how they like are interpreted within legal settings and how they display themselves like in criminal behaviors. So I think it is important, and I do feel bad for Bryan, and I would feel bad for anyone that is writing any types of case like this. He does sound pretty desperate, and it sounds like he easily could get a transfer. Like, I wonder how many beds like are open in that unit right now. I do feel like they are kind of probably right now. My suspicion would be that they're not treating him very fairly. I'll need more evidence to back that up, and I don't know how we're getting these kites. Um, and I'm assuming they're probably being leaked from correctional staff because they send these types of things out in a building-wide report. And so anyone that works there that gets that building-wide report could potentially screenshot it and send it to whoever they want to. And if you're one of those people, call me. But yeah, so this is against confidentiality, and honestly, the person that gets found out for doing this that works there should be fired from the prison. Also, same with the video of him in his cell. That is so like that sucks to like it's like totally Big Brother, you know what I mean? Except it's not even the correctional staff. It's literally everyone in the world. Like people deserve like some dignity and privacy, and to think that someone that's in a prison cell right now is having his like personal information, his like personal threats, complaints, like fears and like wishes with the world is like super fucked up, and I wouldn't wish that for anybody, you know. And I think he is being pretty respectful here. So, I have a nice light. I just did a review video on it. Oh, nice. I'll have to check it out. I'll come check it out and give it a thumbs up. I, I don't even know if I subscribed to you, dude. That's so dumb. Um, what kind of light? My dad's a total light guy, and he's like a total garage light guy. I mean, we kind of joke about it because I mean, I'm a total light person too. Like I like having all the lights on, blah blah blah. But I mean, it looks like the like plane landing lights, you know, airport lighting up at my cabin and in his backyard and stuff. So, but everyone go check out Landon Custom Classics, and he has a really good review about a really good light that he wants to talk about. I guess maybe I'm just assuming that it was good, but find out yourself, if it is or not. Kind of a cliffhanger there. So, um, yeah. I think I'm gonna wrap it up there today because it's over 3 hours, and I feel like whoever's not sick of me talking besides Landon probably should be. But I appreciate everyone for listening, and I hope that you guys continue to um, come back and tune back in, and also join the discussion and thoughts. And I am definitely open for different opinions and discussions, but also coming from the place where I'm not trying to like fight with anyone. I'm just trying to kind of speak my insight and truth, and I'm open to hearing other people's too. So um yeah. And again, Lannon, you're the real one, a real one. I appreciate you so much. I am gonna like I think go have a little drink. Let's do a little solar plexus meditation ring. So we all leave on good notes tonight. Oh, hold on. No, hold on. I'm gonna hold it in my palm. Okay. That'll really get those nasty, negative, dark spirits out of here. Um, okay, well, thanks again to everyone, and please join me tomorrow again for a similar live that I will have no later than noon, probably around 11:30. And thank you again, Landon, for being here, and um, see y'all later. Peace and love. Deuces.